It's now 7:10 p.m. and I'm calling the meeting to order. And Stephanie, can we please give roll call?
Commissioner Ollie.
Present.
Commissioner Daniel.
Present.
Commissioner Dillard.
Present.
Commissioner Gathawa.
Present.
Commissioner Harris.
Present.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Rivera.
Here.
Commissioner Sakawas. Commissioner Traore.
Here. All right. First and foremost, we do have public comment of items not on the agenda. So if we do have anyone in the public that would like to speak on any items not on tonight's agenda, we will be sure to give you your full 5 minutes to do so. So please raise your hand. All right. Not looking like we have any public comment. Okay. In that case, so before moving on to agenda item number 3, I just want to ensure that we do give Commissioner Novus the opportunity to speak on this item and to present as well. So same goes as well with item number 4, the committee budget updates and also the needs for votes and talk on the stipend, subcommittee needs, operational budget completion. Just want to ensure that she has ability to hear all of that. So if it is okay with everyone at the moment, I would like to move to budget item number, item number 5 on our agenda, and then we can come back to item number 3. So item number 5 is timeline for future meetings and meeting frequency. So at the moment, we did talk in the last meeting about how we would need another biweekly meeting for July 8th, just to use that meeting to get budget straightened out and passed for the operational budget. So it seems like we're very close to getting that completed. Most subcommittees have now had the opportunity to meet, but after today's budget subcommittee updates, I believe that we'll have a little bit more of a picture kind of what needs to be discussed in the next 2 weeks prior to that final meeting, July 8th. I do want to open it up for conversation on if everyone wants to move to monthly meetings after that July 8th meeting, or if we would rather continue on bi-weekly schedule. And also to let you know that I've been informed that if it comes down to monthly meetings, the week that would be open for us would be the 4th Thursday of every month. So does anyone have any thoughts on doing bi-weekly versus monthly?
This is Commissioner Ollie speaking. I'm just gonna go first and just be really quick. I think we should continue bi-weekly until after we've established a facilitator. I know it's kind of annoying, but I don't think that this stuff should wait for the 4th Thursday or whatever you just said of every month. I think that the work that we're doing is important, especially since we're going to be having this conversation regarding a stipend. I think that we should continue meeting bi-weekly. I would say probably like maybe even like a couple weeks after we hire the facilitator, and I think it's just in our best interest to do that.
Does anyone else have any thoughts?
I want to piggyback on, this is Commissioner Huang. I want to piggyback on Commissioner Ali's comments and suggestion. I'm feeling we have a lot on our plate, and also kind of we have a lot of things in the air that we are trying to lay foundations as we move. So thinking not to move away, because of that, not to move away from the 2 weeks meeting. Just because we've got a lot of ground to cover and a lot of foundations to lay. That's my rationale for that suggestion.
I can go. This is Eric Harris. I would rather stay at like bi-weekly, especially with bringing up the part about the stipend thing. I would rather stay at bi-weekly. I would also like to move to say that eventually we have to meet in person at some point. Lots of people have been vaccinated and things like that. So you might want to think about that too, about meeting in person, because I think it'd be more impersonal. We meet in person instead of just all these Zoom calls. So.
Actually, Commissioner Harris, I'm just gonna, based upon what you just said. So currently the governor has an order in place that suspends the requirement to hold public meetings or hearings in person. It's possible that she could change that order at any time. And if that is changed, then the TRC would be required to be meeting in person.
Thank you for that information.
Yes.
And Stephanie, as I remember, as you said, so it would expire at the end of this week if it's not renewed. And then in that case, okay.
Yes. And due to some of the new requirements from the city council, the original location at a recreation center at Mercer, Mercer does not have some of the equipment or the accommodations that will be needed. The city council, once commissions are meeting in person, requires for the meetings to be recorded and audio recorded. And so at that point, we're going to be looking at probably City Hall or something similar that has the capabilities for meetings to be recorded and also having projector and computer access. And so you'll probably be meeting at City Hall. The parking at the ramp right across the street, there's no cost to park by the time your meeting starts. And City Hall is also on a bus line where it lets out directly adjacent to the City Hall. So that's something to be mindful of. And once you change to in-person meetings, there's not going to be like a hybrid option. There's not going to be a Zoom option, okay? So you're going to need to be in person because the meetings are only being recorded, and then they will play on City Channel 4, YouTube, etc. But there's not going to be like a live broadcast of the meetings. So just so everybody understands that.
So members of the public will have to attend in person as well.
That's correct.
And Stephanie, is there any way to amend that to create more inclusivity, like to make it so that people can attend live that aren't comfortable still, or?
Well, depending on the date that you decide, tentatively, it looks like the fourth Thursday of each month, Emma Harbert Hall, which is also known as Council Chambers, is available. That's a pretty large space where persons could, socially distance if they wanted to. Depending on the date, if you're still meeting twice a month, I can't guarantee that you will always be in Harbert Hall. It could be that you're in a little smaller space, but I, as staff, obviously would do my best to try to accommodate anyone who had concerns, whether they're a member of the public or a member of the commission. But if the governor doesn't continue the suspension, then there's not a lot of options in terms of in-person meetings. And the correspondence that I have received from the city is that the meetings are recorded and there's not this hybrid option.
One thing I go ahead.
Yeah, I can agree to table that to talk about it later because we have to see what the governor's going to do. So that's nothing, that part of it in person, that doesn't have to be decided tonight, but I mean, we can talk about that later because we got to see what the governor wants to do.
One thing I just wanted to talk about for now is just the factor of, so when I say that like the fourth Thursday of each month, I just want you all to realize that would still mean that there'd still be 2 meetings in July, because there's still a fourth Thursday in July. So there's still 2 meetings that would happen. And the RFP for facilitator expires July 13th, I believe. So that'd still be another 2 weeks to even get to review those before that meeting would happen. But also to remember, to that first facilitator process, we can call for a special meeting at any time. So it doesn't specifically mean we can only meet once a month. There can be other meetings scheduled and asked for. And I understand the concerns of need to work on this, need to work on this. But if public meetings are bi-weekly, my fear as well is we have less of that. We're actually focusing on directly in subcommittees on specific topics and getting moving on those things. Because then we'd have bi-weekly meetings, getting subcommittee meetings in, scheduling those, getting those all around. And I just want to ensure that we are actually prioritizing that as well, because otherwise these meetings then become need to schedule subcommittee things in general for each of these. And when we're talking about details we need to iron out, that pushes those around as well and also lengthens the public meetings. So just some things to be wary on. No one referenced the stipend thing as well. Just because we're not in a public meeting doesn't mean you can't be doing work related to this. Subcommittee meetings, meeting people in public, going to people's TRC meetings, volunteering, things of that nature, going to events where you're just learning about more people in the community, showing your face and things of that nature. It's like, if we keep doing the bi-weekly schedule, it's like my fear with that as well is other things that could pop up in the summer that people want to do or that people need to do, or just in general of having a schedule around all of those things. So just some things to be wary of. Whereas if we have one monthly public meeting, can always call a special meeting if needed for some topic that absolutely needs to be addressed.
This is Commissioner Rivera. I was going to bring up the same thing that you had mentioned, Mo, just the idea that it is hard to schedule subcommittee meetings in like the week and a half that we have in between our public meetings. For that reason, I do hope that, you know, shortly after we do have a facilitator in place, we move to monthly meetings. But for right now, I see the reasoning that was raised by Commissioners Ollie, Gathua, and Harris so far, and I would agree with the idea for right now continuing bi-weekly.
I just want to clarify bi-monthly.
Yeah, that twice a month. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Ollie, and this might be a question for Stephanie, but so if/when we do go to monthly meetings, if we have to hold a special meeting, how does that work? Where would we need to meet? Would the city, how would accommodations for that work if we do have to meet face to face and Zoom isn't an option?
I agree with that.
Yeah, there's enough city facilities that I'm not concerned with finding a location, but in terms of where it would depend on the date. I don't know ahead of time. If another commissioner board has something reserved, then, you know, City Hall may not be an option, but there would be other options that would be able to accommodate the commission. So I guess I wouldn't let that be a concern, but it may not be in council chambers or Emma Harvett Hall. It just kind of depends on the date.
Okay, thank you. And just so we can kind of keep this meeting moving forward, since I see Sakawas is back on, I do want to say that I agree. I think monthly meetings are really something that we should push towards. I just want to hire a facilitator, and I want those set dates to be dates where there's meetings and things like that. And if by, you know, that last meeting in July, we've picked someone, then we just have to have that first meeting in August and then we move to the last Thursday. I think that that's totally fine. I just would really push to wait to make this decision until we've gotten a facilitator on board. And I'm going to yield to the floor with that.
Anyone else have anything on that one?
This Commissioner Johnson, I agree. It just makes sense.
Okay, so sounds like thus far there's no changes being made. So in that case, the next meetings would be July 8th and then July 22nd. And then from there, be August 4th, I believe. No, wait, no, 31 days. Fifth. Okay, so yeah, July 8th, July 22nd, and then August 5th. All right. And Stephanie, there's no votes needed on that, right? Since that's already kind of bylaw thing.
Yeah, I think since you're not making any changes, I think you're fine not voting. And I'll start sharing the screen again for the agenda.
Okay. With that, that is agenda item number 5. So we can now move back up to agenda item number 3, which were the updates from Commissioner Novus on the land acknowledgement and also the discussion of land acknowledgement. And I will now yield the floor to Commissioner Novus.
I wonder if we can open it up to public comment.
Oh, all right. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on agenda item number 3? If you raise your hand, we'll be sure to call on you and give you 5 minutes. Okay. Commissioner Novus, I don't see any hands, so looks like the floor is yours.
Thank you. I apologize for being late. It's been a hard few days for the Indigenous community, so I was doing some self-care. So sorry about that. Yes, I've worked on the land acknowledgement and spoken to a few different Iowa expert, an Iowa expert, give my own view, and talk to a Meskwaki person about the land acknowledgement, and this is what we've come up with. So I'll read it to everybody. We meet today in the community of Iowa City, which now occupies the homelands of Native American nations to whom we owe our commitment and dedication. The area of Iowa City was within the homelands of the Iowa, Meskwaki, Sac, and because history is complex and time goes far back beyond memory, we also acknowledge the ancient connections of many other Indigenous people here. The history of broken treaties and forced removal that dispossessed Indigenous peoples of their homelands was and is an act of colonization and genocide that we cannot erase. We implore the Iowa City community to commit to understanding and addressing these injustices as we work toward equity, restoration, and reparations. So basically, we removed the longer list of people in the area, specifically to Iowa City. This was home to Iowa, Meskwaki, and Sac people. And then I added the word reparations at the end, as I feel that a land acknowledgement is very empty without trying to make some taken action. Otherwise, why are we reading this? It's basically just telling people, hey, sorry, we stole your land and murdered you all, but hey, we're on your land, and acknowledging it. So I really do want to make sure that we do our best to get people to take action. That is it for the land acknowledgement. I don't know.
Thank you, Sakawas. Can you just read a part again? Was it something along the lines of "We implore the Iowa City community"?
Yes. We implore the Iowa City community to commit to understanding and addressing these injustices as we work toward equity, restoration, and reparations. I can put this in the chat. Is that a good idea?
No, I really like the way that line reads, because originally I was wondering sort of who the voice of this is, right? So it's the body of our commission, maybe the Human Rights Commission as well. But some original discussions were for us to, if both of our bodies were to adopt this land acknowledgement, for us to recommend that City Council adopt it as well, and then further push it out to other commissions and bodies. So the way that it says, you know, we implore the Iowa City community to understand those things, right? And then it says, as we work towards equity, restoration, and reparation. So the onus is still on the city bodies to work towards those means, those results. And so I appreciate the way that sentence is constructed.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Sakawas, I gave you co-host permission, and so if you want to share your screen, that is another way for everybody to see it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you want me to share it?
Please.
Do I need to? Okay. All right. Excuse me for a second.
And while it's going up, Sakawas, I just really want to extend my gratitude for you doing a lot of heavy lifting on this and working with some elders and reaching out so that we can get some of their wisdom as well.
Thank you. So here we are.
Do you think that if other bodies in Johnson County wanted to adopt this land acknowledgement, it would still be appropriate? Like, let's say if it was just like Coralville City Council or something like that. Or would we ask that they do their own research and, you know, make sure that they're acknowledging their right Native communities?
I think Coralville would probably use the same pretty much all of it is the same. Yeah, like the same people were in Coralville too.
I'd say as well for the other communities or areas that would want to adopt something similar, I would leave the onus on them to do their own research, because the line is in there to commit to understanding and addressing these injustices. So if it's just generally written for everyone and they have to do no work whatsoever, then I feel like it would leave it kind of hollow in how they would be adapting it. And it'd be more talk and them actually believing in it, in a sense. It's like, I'd want them to truly do their own work in terms of like looking at the words in here and then finding how it relates to them, reaching out to those Native American communities as well, see which groups it responds to and things like that, instead of just taking everything from City of Iowa City and just saying, okay, we're just going to change the word Iowa City to this locality, if that makes sense. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. I think that's great.
Sakawas, was there any editing of the purpose paragraph above the official land acknowledgement?
I don't remember now. I think there was. Yes, I did edit this as well. I tend to want to be more, much more brutally honest. And so I probably went through and made some changes in that capacity. But I don't think I would have made any big changes. But I do remember going through it. But you have access to this document too, I believe you and Mohammed have access to this. I don't know
Is
if I
it in
should
the
share-
drive?
I don't think so. I will have to put it in the drive in case it's not in there. This might be like or it should be the same one you shared with me, actually. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that when I shared it to you, it was like a sort of digital non-online copy. So I don't think that I have the most recently edited version.
Oh, okay. So I'll do that. I don't know if I have access to the drive. But yeah, I can put that in there.
Figure that out.
Yeah.
Is
Uh,
there any way I could also, this is Commissioner Huang. Is it also possible to get a copy and just go through?
Yeah. I don't have everybody's emails. I don't think. Maybe Mohammed, you send a lot of emails out to the group, right? Can you just add them to this, like, so they can view it?
Yeah, I'll do that. And what I can do is I can just download the document and just send it to the ad hoc truth at iocity.org one, and that'll just send it to everyone.
Okay.
But
I think
Yeah.
it would be better for it to be sent to me and for me to send it out to commissioners to reply
Yeah.
to me with their changes.
That's what I was
Okay.
just
Because
gonna.
otherwise you're basically having a meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephanie.
So is what we're moving toward taking another 2 weeks for everyone to review this on their own and then making a vote on it next time?
yes, and does anyone know when the Human Rights Commission meets next? Because another thing that can be done is to send this current document as is to Human Rights Commission in case they're meeting prior to then.
They
So-
won't be. I can look it up, but they meet the
Okay.
4th Tuesday of every month. So they're not meeting until late July.
Okay.
I'll make sure to reach out to Commissioner Lindley, and who's also joining us today. And so to hear her thoughts, and maybe I can use those thoughts in my suggestions for the document.
Yeah, and I was gonna say I could also ask the chair, Jessica Andino, if she has any questions, but I feel like whatever we do, I think it'll get to the Human Rights Commission either way.
This is Commissioner Gadua again. I want to thank Commissioner Sakawis and Kevo for leading on this and the work, even if it's painful. You have continued to lead us in it, and even some of it we knew, but bringing that home, I knew about the history of the Meskwaki and colonization, and I've done a bit of work. I've also been to the reservation and done some work with the elders and in the middle school and some activities, but it's barely even listening to one of their historians, Jonathan. It's still barely scratching the surface, but I can never lie and say it's never traumatic for me, especially when we talk colonization, because of course, having come from a continent that was colonized and then come to the US where there's the history of slavery and also what we are addressing even right now in our meetings, it becomes painful. So I appreciate you taking us, Commissioner Sakawi is taking a lead on this and bringing something I didn't even know that Iowa City sits on Meskwaki and Sioux clan. So as I learn it, I appreciate, but I won't lie and say it doesn't always bring a lot of pain and a lot of suffering and a lot of tears, but still having to move on and keep on telling myself that one day we shall see restoration and reparation and healing. So thank you.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
thank you, Commissioner Rivera, for spearheading this project.
Yeah, a lot of thanks to go around. I again wanted to sort of point out that we received a lot of help from members of the public, including the advocacy of Joe Coulter, who has been a really active member of the public in these meetings and just super appreciative of his input thus far as well. I wonder, Sakawas, in your conversations that you've had thus far, if any of the folks that you've talked to expressed any interest in just coming and educating and providing us with some of their wisdom on what sort of the next step after acknowledgement looks like, right? So I am sensitive to, you know, all of the sentiment that you've raised of an acknowledgement is just empty words unless we sort of commit to action. But we're really sort of floundering in that end without hearing directly from sort of the voices of elders.
Yeah, I can certainly ask Lance Foster, the tribal historian of the Iowa of Kansas, and see if he would be interested. He's very knowledgeable on this area, and these are the original stewards of this land here. So I can see if he'd be interested in having a discussion with us. There might be sacred spots within the Iowa City area that we should look into getting protected or turning into, you know, special spaces. Yeah, so thank you for asking that. I'll look into it.
Thanks.
I just want to thank you as well for the amount of effort put in and for especially being willing to share that today with the news that has come out today and over the past few weeks. Additionally, so I want to make sure that we do cover this once again in the next meeting that we're going to have. So in the meantime, let's just be sure that we do reach out to the Human Rights Commission so they do get the opportunity to see it, and we can just move closer to getting this land acknowledgement actually voted on. Does anyone have anything else that they'd like to say on this current topic? Or does anyone have any motions that they would like to put forward on it? Oh, go ahead, Mo.
This doesn't have to do with the current topic. I just want to make sure it's finished before I actually ask my next question, because it's to Stephanie. It's completely off topic.
I'm wondering whether we are ready to really make any motions on it yet.
No, I've personally felt from Mo's sentiment and from Sakawas and from everyone else that we should wait until after we get feedback from the other commissions and then come back and vote on this.
Personally, I just wanted to say what I meant was more so feedback from Human Rights Commission in terms of it being in tandem with them. So I feel that after we hear from them, then it would be, you know, possible to have a vote, since those are the two that were really like intertwined with working on it. But if we do want to reach out to others, everyone can feel free to do so. But those are just my thoughts on it.
Steph.
Yes.
I'm wondering if we approved the minutes from last week. Is that something that we don't have to do anymore?
No, that's a great question. So you do, but you'll just have to approve 2 sets of minutes at your next meeting.
Okay.
From the previous one and from tonight.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, it never hurts to check, so I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. I'll yield to the floor so we can move on to the next agenda item in case anyone.
Prior to moving on, however, did anyone else have anything else on budget on item number 3 for the land acknowledgement? Just want to make sure. Okay. We are on to agenda item number 4, which is budget subcommittee updates overview, also including discussion on budget line items, commissioner stipend and subcommittee needs, and timeline for completion of operational budget. Prior to us beginning our discussion, I want to ensure that we do give the public an opportunity to comment on this. Is there anyone in the public that would like to make a comment on agenda item number 4 on the budget subcommittee updates at this time? Okay, doesn't look like we have anyone from the public to speak on this item. Just want to make sure we give you one more chance. Okay. All right, so we are now on to the commission discussion. So bit of an overview, just wanted to give quickly. So we did have the budget subcommittee meeting on Monday evening. So from what we had gathered there, it seems that we are very, very close to having an operational budget ready. And at this point, I feel that the things that we're stressing are more so budget to get through about Labor Day or so. So that would give us enough time to get a facilitator in, to do a little more work with subcommittees, and to truly know a little bit more of what we may need for subcommittees before just passing a budget where we're just looking to just allocate all this money and not knowing exactly where we want to spend it. The main things that were really looked at were subcommittees, what you want to do in terms of your researchers or collaborators that you may want to work with, thoughts on how much you may want to spend on those things. And those are things you can discuss in subcommittees as well, or if you'd like to discuss a little bit more of that tonight in terms of guidance or anything. But other than that, the main thing I just really had was the line on the stipend. So does anyone have any thoughts on anything in terms of subcommittee needs, the general budget, or the stipend?
I just have a question. So if we're gonna wait, and this might be a question that Steph may be better to answer, but if we wait to submit the operational budget until, let's say, after, like, what, Labor Day? I don't know what day that is. Is it in September? The first week of September?
I didn't mean wait till Labor Day. I meant like an operational budget to cover things through Labor Day.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you meant shoot to have one sent to them by Labor Day. So my question was going to be then if there are things, and I guess it's still a question to ask Steph, if there are things that we buy that are specific towards like commission needs or things like that, is there something that can be put in the budget to, like, for reimbursement, or like let's say we're going to be doing an event with another outside entity and we're going to have a table there, but we don't have like any flyers or anything like that, and someone takes it upon themselves to get 40 flyers printed, go pick up some poster board, draw some beautiful sign for the TRC, and they spend $70 doing all of that. Is that something that would need to be put in the budget for like reimbursement for things? Because I'm wondering if, like, if we're having like, I don't know, like reimbursement for gas if someone's going somewhere, or like things like that. I had meant to ask that question, and unfortunately I missed the meeting on Monday. So that was one of the big things that was kind of stuck in my head.
So you gave two different examples that are not necessarily similar. If a commission member is attending an event on behalf of the TRC, say you're going to a seminar or something, and you're wanting reimbursement for parking or for mileage, then that would be something that you could submit to me and I would run that through accounting for reimbursement. If you're talking about getting things printed for an event, that would be something that you could send to staff. And I mean, it's not an issue for us to get flyers printed or something like that. So I think generally speaking, most of the things for reimbursement would really be related more towards travel needs or parking needs, or maybe participating in an event that required you to travel some distance. But generally speaking, if you're registering for an event that has a charge, that would be something that you could alert staff to, and we could use what we call a P card, and we would put it on the P card. So I don't think there's a lot of opportunities for reimbursement, and those that are would probably be related to travel and indoor parking. But most of those kind of clerical things, you probably could just shoot me an email or call me, and I don't foresee there being any complications in terms of the city being able to do those things for the commission.
Thank you. You answered my question perfectly.
This is Paris. I got something to say about, into relation about getting reimbursed for things. I understand that, gas mileage or printing up flyers or things like that. And I think that, a stipend would take those things away. If you're getting a stipend and you have to maybe spend $70 on something like that, or some parking, if you're getting a stipend, then you don't have to go through the complicated process of trying to reclaim money from the city. If you're getting a stipend, you have to pay for some parking. You're getting a stipend. So you should use that for that. And with that, I yield.
Does anyone have anything else to add before we kind of move towards the stipend? Because I think that's kind of like the hot topic of the budget currently. And I do have some opinions, but I want to make sure that we get everything spoken about before we get onto that, because I think that's going to take the majority of the time for this discussion.
I just want to list some of the current line items we do have in the budget, just so
Can you
everyone's
share
just
the
aware.
screen? Yeah, do you mind sharing your screen?
Yeah, just want to let everyone know, once again, these are preliminary, just dummy numbers for the most part when it comes to the actual subcommittees in themselves, just because we don't really have full clarity on what exactly we'll need in that
And
capacity.
I just want to mention that this and the land acknowledgement will need to be sent to me so that they can be put as a part of the packet.
Mhm.
So that they can be archived with the packet. So they might be drafts and not finals, but they still just need to be archived. So I just wanted to let everybody know. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, these are in the TRC folder, so it'll be pretty easy to get these to you as well. And so again, these being dummy numbers in that sense, I just put a round number in this box, just what I felt might end up being a top end number, and then Chromebooks for commission. So we put an amount of 350 in that for August, as in one facilitator being hired. Want them to have a computer dedicated to just their work on the commission. So in terms of collecting any files or anything that they may be working on and things of that nature, not having it mixed with some other computer or anything like that. Facilitator as well in this sense. So this monthly amount that was put in is literally just based off of the past contract that was written in. This is in no way guaranteeing this is what the payment amount would be, but more so kind of looking at what the top end might be based off what is currently going on. For experts in training, so these are once again also just dummy numbers, not really knowing how much we may need for that, what those RFPs may require, how many experts, how much training people feel that we need. Advertising outreach, so this line is more so in that sense of flyers, in terms of social media posts, if city social media post pages, if we're wanting to pay for advertising for boosting of posts to kind of get word out on certain things. or also if someone needed to be paid to actually do this outreach. Videographer as well. So been in conversations with someone from Englert Theater. He'd be doing this work separate from Englert, however, but it would just be like that aspect of wanting to have video of people's testimonies. And I do know that we have, some city staff, City Channel 4 for that, but in the off chance that backup is needed, or as well in that factor of if people will feel less comfortable speaking with a direct, long-time standing city person, and they'd rather speak with someone else, then the fee that this videographer has told me that he would be willing to work under is basically that $4,000 mark for this time span of 4 months. And this would include about 90 to 120 minutes of footage after editing. And then for each subcommittee as well, kind of just have some just rough numbers in there, just not knowing exactly how much people may want. So left some months out here and there. This can be spread out however which way, but just want to let everyone know as well, the main cutoff that we kind of be looking for the first iteration of budget is pretty much towards Labor Day or end of September, because we can always come back and revise these things. Just wanted to make sure this was all plotted out on longer term, so we could kind of see, okay, how much would this end up running over the course of full commission if the spending were to continue at that rate. So researchers, collaborators are on there, materials in terms of anything you may need in terms of getting paperwork or printing certain things, and had added it up to about a total of just around 500,000 if it was going to be for every subcommittee, all general budgets and everything over the course of the entire length of the commission through about end of July, if it were to go through that. If you were extrapolated out to about September, October, then that number would come about closer to 600,000. But again, that's only if you take all numbers in here as if they're being spent in the same way all throughout. Because remember as well, the facilitator at any time has decided we don't need that, can be taken out. And things like that. But that's all I have on that at this time. If anyone has any questions or would like to go over that, then now I have that opportunity.
What's the monthly totals? What's above facilitator?
Where? The commission stipend line?
Oh, that's okay. And then so I'm just going to make a strong suggestion that we pause on the videographer until we have a solid idea of when we're going to need him, for how long a video he's going to take, for how many people, because I believe that the people that we're going to be taking videos of deserve some type of payment as well. And so I really think, and I don't know what this looks like to other people. I know I've brought this up in subcommittee meetings. When people are giving their testimony to us, I think it can be different from what we gather to put in like a video or a movie or documentary type of thing where we talk about the experiences of people. I think of those as two different things. So I don't think that Channel 4 is going to, help us put this movie together. So I think the videographer is a really essential and a really good person to have. But I also think before we think about the videographer, we need to really sit down as a commission and specifically plan how we're going to go about using the videographer, because I don't think that it would be useful for us to use them at the same time that Channel 4 and everyone is there. It might have to be like an off-site type of thing where it's just one commissioner and then it's like 7 testimonies getting videotaped. Yeah,
Kevo,
go ahead.
Kevo, before you go, just wanted to say that like that's what I meant in terms of like someone that might not want to speak to the city in that sense, but it's also pushed off till August in that sense. But again, this is a budget of where money can be spent and allocated, I feel as though. So again, if this is going to be something that's going to be pushed off, it needs to be spoken about sooner rather than later. So if we can go over that in the next meeting or something in that sense, because otherwise that again just pushes it off even more, and then pushes off gathering different testimonies even more. So kind of just been floating this idea for a bit now. So yeah, let's just make sure that we just talk about it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to end up just reiterating a lot of what was already said by you, Commissioner Ali, but and you, Chair. I think the reason that we initially kind of slotted the start date of the videographer in August, or at least this summer, was because we were thinking about, at least for our first video project, having videographers sit down with each of the commissioners for some interviews so that we can produce a short video that like highlights some of the sort of personalities and priorities of the individual commissioners, so that we can put that out to the public so that they have a better understanding of who we are as a commission. But I certainly think that we can shift those numbers around to any sort of date on this timeline, but the lump sum would end up still being the same. I agree that if we do put together sort of a large video project as one of the main works of this commission, it shouldn't necessarily be primarily raw footage from any of our public meetings or hearings, but we can sort of start to gather testimony, and then we can maybe ask individuals who have shared if they would like to come back and then share and via a separate recording, so that we have a little bit more control over that production. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Commissioner. This Commissioner Wangui. Thank you, Commissioner Traore, for sharing the screen.
Commissioner Wangui, I'm sorry to interrupt. Daphne has had her hand up.
Oh,
for a
okay.
While.
Okay. Okay.
And after Daphne speaks, then you can take the floor. But I just want to make sure that she's heard, because she's had her hand up for a while.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So as far as the videographer is concerned, I think if we want to get this like a project done in August, then we need to invite bids on a contract. I've never really been comfortable with no bid contracts in government, and so I think we have a duty to open that process. I think offering payment for testimony is not a good idea. I think that's a very slippery slope. And I do think it would undermine it would undermine the work that we're doing, because at the end of the day, someone could reject what someone has to say because they feel like this person is just trying to get paid. So I would like to see if there's an alternative to that. We did discuss childcare and making it easier for people. And I really think that's what we should focus on, and not on paying people for their truth. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I agree. I probably didn't use the best verbiage. I meant more on like paying people for their time to have to come back and rehash that truth on camera, which may not be in one cut. And I think that I'm open to discussing like other things that we can do. I just don't want to have someone who's going to keep rehashing their trauma, maybe, or things like that, just doing it without giving them some type of something, if that makes sense. And it might not be for, it doesn't have to be a money figure or anything like that. It doesn't have to be cash or anything like that. I agree. I want to repay people for the time that they are giving us for giving their testimony. And with that, I'm going to give the floor to Commissioner Gathua.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just start there. Sometimes the term that is used when somebody is giving you something, and sometimes the word that's used is reciprocity. And yeah, one area like Commissioner Daniels is suggesting maybe childcare or mileage, but that's yeah, without really using the word payment, because you can't really, whatever they would be giving is priceless. Okay, I'll go on to my own point. I was Commissioner Treore, thank you for sharing that, because I saw what what was at the forefront of my mind, researcher pay and collaborators. I'm glad to see that there, because I'm seeing already we all around we are going to use people and collaborate with people. Then something else, because of mentioning that, I'm not totally going off. I think maybe now that we mentioned researchers and videographers, I have a question for Stephanie. As we collect or listen to experiences, or we find out with the city, I'm thinking about being ethical and also being legal. I wonder whether we need or which office would ensure this. Is it something that we apply for? If it's, I know if with the schools, let's say the University of Iowa, if you are going to gather information with people, if let's say it's a study, you have the research bureau and they ensure that you meet all the ethics and the legal things that you need. I wonder in our case, when we are collecting information, do we just go, or is there a city body that takes care of this? And I think Stephanie, I think that I'm directing to you.
I mean, I'm not aware of a city body that you would direct it to. I think that's kind of part of the charge of the TRC. If I'm understanding your question correctly.
Yeah, I got asked that question together with, because we're doing painful work, and then some people are also feeling it can also be political and hazardous, whether as a commission we would be able to, how we would be able to assure people. So I just said I'll bring this, and I'm bringing it when we're talking about the budget, because we talked about videos and also researching and collaborating with people.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I quite understand the call of the question.
Oh, because the commission is going to be listening to people, and this even involves getting information from people, and also the information is also public information, whether we as we go about doing that, whether there's a body ensuring that as we do that, or people that we are working with, they're doing that, whether there is any place, even for ourselves and for the other side, to ensure that we are ethical as we go about it and we are doing it legally.
I mean, again, I'm not sure I understand the call of the question, but you're correct in that any information that's provided is public. So when you're talking about ethics, obviously, in my opinion, it would be making sure that there's disclaimers and that people realize that it's not confidential, that it, that what they're sharing with each of you, if there's a request, could be shared with everyone. But I guess other than that, I'm not really sure that I you know, I don't know if you're referring to, 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 I don't know if you're re like it totally.
Yeah, I think it's like more along the lines of like the legalities, like if a court case or something comes up out of it, maybe that you're thinking of, or like if we're like worried about the person's safety or something. But we did kind of talk about this in a past meeting, and I think it just really comes down again to like having that disclaimer aspect of like, this is like public information. So we're not like actively like forcing people to come about of like, you have to speak on this or you have to do this, but rather of like, if you want to do this, if you want to speak on this, you can, just know that this is going to be public, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, depending on the circumstances, a person may have a right under the law to file a complaint, you know, whether that's a complaint of discrimination or a complaint with the Community Police Review Board. But I mean, that's really going to be on a case-by-case basis. That would be determined by the area that it occurred in. And, you know, at some points you would run into statute of limitations too. But I guess that may be something that needs to be revisited as it gets closer in time, because you know, some people may have some remedies, other people may not. And so I guess having this broad conversation without more, I could say in some situations, it's very possible a person may have some legal remedies in terms of what they're addressing with you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they would in all of the circumstances in context of testimony you may take. It's probably really going to be on a case-by-case basis.
So this is Commissioner Daniel. I do want to remind everyone that the Budget Committee will be taking on the collections, like a collections policy when we're through with the budget. At least that's what I thought we had agreed on. And so I have working on that, and I imagine the ethics, if the commission has some ethical positions it wants to adopt as far as collecting truths and archiving them for posterity, I think that we can work that into the collections policies.
With the discussion that has just gone on from Stephanie, Commissioner Traore, and what you've added, Commissioner Daniel, I have gotten the answer that I was looking to, that as we collect, it's under the commission's work. That is the permission. So yeah, I do have an answer as going forward. You've brought me back to that, to knowing that it's under the commission and the constitution of the commission. Thank you.
Are we ready to start talking about the elephant in the room?
Oh, sorry, my mouse said pause, but I just wanted to say, Dr. Gatua, yeah, no problem at all, and thank you for asking it. It was,
yeah,
you know, always a good time to ask questions.
Yeah.
But before we do move on to any discussion of a stipend, I just want to make it clear once again, a lot of these numbers are just dummy numbers. I literally just input a number in there, just as a starting point for people to speak on if you feel one way or the other, and can speak on that from there. Again, I just want to say that there's nowhere that says that the vote on the amount also has to be tonight. That's the decision of everyone on the commission. The main thing is the discussion on it, and if you would like to even have a commission stipend be a thing. So with that, I yield the floor.
Is that what the vote is? And I didn't know that we like, I wasn't under the impression that we even had to vote on anything regarding the stipend tonight.
No, I'm just saying, like, the main pretense of the item in itself is that, but however, when it comes to amounts being decided, I just want to let everyone know that you're not forced to vote on that. And you're not also, and it's like, its discussion is listed like specifically, because anything where it comes to votes of approving things or amounts and things of that nature, that has to be a motion. Like I can't just, you
Yeah.
know.
So I just want to start really quick about this stipend thing, just because I've been thinking long and hard about it, and I spoke to some people who have good knowledge on TRCs. Just briefly, a few people involved in the College of Law at the University of Iowa. One being a woman who has probably 50 years of experience in South Africa and the South African Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So I want to start off by saying that, like, I definitely agree morally and principally that, like, we all deserve to get paid for this work. I just don't really have faith in council even like entertaining this idea for a slight second. I know for sure there is one counselor who's like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I don't have faith in any of the other counselors. Like, the Human Rights Commission tried to ask for a non-voting seat of a BIPOC individual to be on the council, just to seat someone that didn't vote, and it was discussed by 2 words, and that was our mayor saying, like, not happening. And anyone who was there or heard it can correct me if I'm wrong. I do think that the work that we're doing is super important, and I want to suggest that instead of asking for stipends for ourselves this time around, I think that we should propose to council for something kind of like what the United Nations has, which is like a special reporter, or like a special, I don't know, person who is specific to doing investigations on the complaints that actually has a say in what happens. Because if any of you guys have done any research on the South African Truth and Reconciliation Commission, there was lots of reparations given. People were granted amnesty for telling, for telling on themselves and others, and things like that. It was a long, complicated thing, and I understand why those commissioners needed reimbursement. It was also broadcasted on live television once a week, like national television for anyone in South Africa to watch. I also just, I think a lot of people are going to have pushback just because of the other commissions. And I know that our commission does a lot of work that's different than the other commissions. We're all BIPOC. I know the history of, like, people of color doing the work and not getting paid for it and not getting credit or anything like that. But I just, I think that, yeah, I just don't think that the city is going to like even like toy with this idea in the slightest. I think that, the conversation we had at our last meeting was super duper incredible. Commissioner Harris made some really good points. As someone who doesn't have children, it's important to hear from someone who does have kids. And I mean, Sakaus's point pretty much steered me in that direction. I just don't think that the city is going to let anything like that fly. I think that and me saying they, I mean the council, they've ignored, they've ignored arguments that are coherent, and I just like don't see them budging for this one. So yeah, with that, I yield to the floor.
I just want to say that I just want to make sure I give everyone else a chance to speak before I say anything on this. So if you would like to speak on this, could you please like raise your hands so we can just know the order?
I can go, Mohammed. So this is Commissioner Harris. So about the stipend thing, the way I feel about it, we have done all the work. Many people in many spaces and many things that's been going on with trying to get this agendas that we have with social injustice and things like that. When events happen, most of the time when you go to the events that happen, you see either me, Muhammad, or a couple other people. We're not well off. We don't, the generational wealth is part of social injustice. So I believe that like we should get paid for the work that we do. It's to the fact that where it's, people that's calling for that we shouldn't get paid for it. We should just do the work and not get paid for it. It's not right. I don't think it's a fair thing. We were talking about having a facilitator that was going to get paid $65,000 a year. I made sure I kept that record about that. $65,000 a year is above the median income of Americans. So the work that we do, especially during the pandemic, the work that we did, we would be on Zoom calls for 4, 3, 4, 5 hours, not accounting for, anything that we did or the money that we might have lost or the time that we might have lost with our children or stuff like that. So calls to come and say that commissioners should not get stipends, it's kind of, it's kind of on the wrong side of the ball. It's kind of, it's kind of on the wrong side of the fence. Like I see people, Sam, I know a lot of guys, a lot of people, like the chairperson, Mohammed, I see him do so many things in this community, not just my community. He does so many things in IWC. We deserve to get money. If we can put in a budget to pay somebody $70,000, the only question I have is who makes $70,000 a year, or $70,000 a year that's on this commission? With that, I yield.
We do have Commissioner Daniel next.
So I do want to bring up the fact that when we talk about the other commissions, there's something that we have that the other commissioners don't, or the other commissions don't, and that's a deadline. So we have to get our work done within a time, like we have a deadline. We got to get the work done, which means we cannot let things just drag until next month or next year like other commissions can. We have to get it done now, and that means putting aside other things we have going on. And if council doesn't think this work is worth even a stipend, we're not talking about a salary, we're not talking about a wage, we're talking about a stipend, then I'm at the point where I'm thinking maybe they can do this themselves. I don't know about anyone else, but this turned out to be a much bigger commitment than I was expecting. And I think it borders on dehumanizing to think that I'm going to give up my time when I could be doing other things like earning money or in self-care, and think that my time's not worth anything. And I really, this argument that council won't even entertain it. Well, if they won't entertain it, they can figure out how to get this work done, because my name's on the council. My reputation isn't necessarily on the line. Council's reputation is on the line if they can't work with their TRC. That's a little bit of truth, and for the council if they're listening. Thank you. I yield.
Anyone else on the commission like to say anything?
I think that all of those, this is Commissioner Ollie. I think that all of those are good points. I wasn't like saying all of the things just to say that I disagree or anything that I don't think, because I think, frankly, I don't remember if it was healthcare subcommittee or education subcommittee. I said that last week I was swayed. You know, I said that originally I didn't think yes, but now I understand because I don't have kids. I don't, you know, all of that, despite the amount of time that I've put into this. But also I'm just trying to just like, I hate the saying play the devil's advocate, because that's not it. I'm just, this is the type of, I know the type of backlash we're going to receive, whether it be from like the community or anyone, you know, other people. I just, and I'm not saying that like we shouldn't try, because that's not where my head is at. I just don't, I genuinely don't think that the same, you know, council that paused us when we kicked their friends out from the top is going to be the same council that votes for us to have a stipend. And I think that's just fact of the matter. I will honestly, I think that if everyone's leaning one way, then I will definitely vote for it. I just don't think council is gonna let that fly.
This is Commissioner Wangui. I can't see whether anybody else's hand is up.
We do have a few hands up,
Okay,
Wangui.
okay.
So
Okay.
if it's okay, I'll go and then Sakawas and then you.
Okay.
Appreciate just Vice Chair's honesty, because you know I do share in a lot of the feelings of mistrust, just in regard to how much City Council will listen to the recommendations of this commission, including sort of our own sort of assertion of self-worth and the work that we're putting on. I really do feel like in my body that the work that we're doing is causing stress, right? Like I feel tired, and certainly there is a lot of heavy lifting that's being done outside of these public meetings. So I think that we go through with sort of what we agreed on, which is asking for the stipend and submitting that with our budget. I think that we go through with us as a commission tonight deciding how much we want for those stipends, so that that can be voted on for the sort of final budget considerations at our next meeting. And we give council another opportunity to listen to the voices on this commission and what we're asking for, rather than playing it safe. Because if we under ask, then we'll never get substantial or meaningful work done. I'm going to yield to Sakawas.
Yeah, I don't know why we'd be worried about what they would think. I mean, I think we should just submit it. And if they don't like it, then we just continue to push, because this is a huge part of the work that always gets overlooked, is the emotional, the physical, and the intellectual labor that BIPOC folks have been putting into this work for centuries. That's never been, you know, compensated for, and then we burn out, and you know, because that's what happens in grassroots communities or in spaces where people have to volunteer on top of jobs and whatever else they're doing. You know, if they're trying to, if this really is the TRC, then I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't want to change how things are done. And I think it should start with the people on the committee, to make sure that they are being treated in the way that they're trying to treat people. So I don't know, how far does this go? Like, so this committee exists now, so they're just perpetuating the same thing if they're not going to recognize the work that goes into this, and why we should no longer expect free labor from BIPOC people. Thank you.
I
Commissioner
think
Gothel.
mine,
I
this
see
is,
Daphne
oh,
with her
yeah,
hand
oh,
up. I don't know if her hand was up before, but she should be able
She's
to comment.
spoken prior. So I just want to make sure we gave Commissioner Gothel first.
yeah, for some reason, I think I've lost my my feature for raising my hand or even seeing other people's or from on my screen. I think I was just going to ask Commissioner Sakaris if that's okay, whether because last time your argument really swayed me because I was saying when I'm getting people's experiences, I do it in academia, in research and publication, and it's frowned upon because of integrity. If people get paid, both the giver of the information and the person who is taking that information, even if there is at all on it's their time and all that, and if for the participant or the subject, when they get given something, it's not, the term is not used payment, another term will be used. And yeah, and then I said coming into the US and collecting information, and also worked in other commissions like the Human Rights Commission. I got surprised because I'd come from my Eurocentric view and way of doing these things, Europe and then South Africa, TRC, and then we also had something of the sort in Kenya in 08 when we had political violence. But people have always been paid in those commissions. It's never even up for discussion because people use their time, people use their money to get to the places where they're meeting. So it's never even up for discussion. But then here I am. Then I came in, I got shocked that because compensating somebody for when they're sitting there, they'll have a drink of water. So take care of that. When I'm here for about 3 hours, please take care of that. Or it's my dinner time, take care of that. So, but then I wondered, it's a question I've always had. So I'm wondering, is that where the point that the council is coming from? But then Commissioner Sakawis, you said something that swayed me. And if I don't recapture correctly, please correct me, such that as the TRC, we would be succumbing to the very thing that we are helping lead. We are leading in listening to experiences of racial injustices so that we can end up at reconciliation. Yet, here we are still agreeing to racial injustice, in some racial injustice, and continuing with that. That's what I took, and that's the meaning making I made out of what you said. Yeah, but then again,
That's what I meant to say. Like, let's start with the TRC.
Yeah, then we went to our subcommittee meetings. I remember in the education subcommittee, again, we went to wondering whether do we go ahead, and I'll summarize in feeling again uncomfortable taking something for this work. And always, all of us here have done this kind of work, advocating, being an activist for this, and a lot of it not paid. What we get, most of us, is an award or a scholarship. So we never even, at the Education Commission subcommittee meeting, we didn't come up with an answer. We were just there sitting in discomfort about taking anything. But now that I'm sitting here, that is why I'm bringing up what again you said, Commissioner Sakawis, and I don't know where the council is coming from, whether it's coming from this is how it's done, other commissions are not paid, or it's still coming from the oppressor's viewpoint where if I do the same thing you're doing, I get paid. And as I'm doing that, I will even have you volunteer. Actually, a lot of it, you're actually helping me or doing my work, but I'm the one who's going to get paid. You don't get paid. So those thoughts have come back to me again. And yeah, let me not get convoluted and go back again to saying the same thing. I yield to the floor.
I want to give both Chastity and Amel a chance to speak before I say anything.
Chastity has a hand up.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just wanted to say, before coming to this meeting, I felt similar to what Mel was saying, more on the side of it just makes me uncomfortable taking money for work that should be done. But after hearing what everyone has said, especially Commissioner Sakowis and Harris, you've definitely swayed my opinion. And I do believe, as Black and Brown people of color, that we do deserve to be paid for this hard work that we're going to be doing. So, and I do hear Commissioner Ollie in what you're saying. You don't believe that the City Council will hear us, but I do agree that it doesn't hurt to try. And as Commissioner Daniel said, if they don't want to do it, that makes them look bad compared to what we're trying to do here. So thank you all for all of your opinions. I really appreciate hearing it. I yield the floor.
And I want
Go
to.
Muhammad. No, Muhammad has his hands up. So
Oh no, I was saying she can go.
He's waiting until we're done talking. He wants to be the last one talking. Right.
Well, I just wanted to make sure I don't say anything that you guys are already going.
No, I feel like no, I just wanted to make sure I'm not against this idea at all. I think that I said that during our subcommittee meetings. I'm fine with the uncomfort. I think that, you know, we would be better off if we were able to have these uncomfortable conversations on the big scheme of things. I just wanted to kind of regurgitate some of the feedback that I felt like we would get, especially living in Iowa City. I think that all of the work that we are doing is completely different from all of the other commissions, the things that they're asking for us to do, the emotions that they're asking for us to deal with and relive, I think are really intense emotions, and we deserve to be reimbursed for the time and the energy. So I appreciate that, everyone's point that they made, and I definitely am leaning on that side of getting a stipend. I guess my question would be maybe more of a Stephanie question. If it's a stipend, is it a one-time thing? Do we decide when we get it? And this might be something maybe you want to write down, Mohammed, or I can write it down too, and I can wait till everyone talks and then we can answer the question. I just want to know the logistics behind that, just, for the sake of knowing and how all of that works out and stuff.
I think in terms of whether it's one time or it's paid out on a quarterly basis, I mean, I think that's part of the recommendation you would make to City Council. I don't necessarily think it has to be a one time and not quarterly. I mean, I think it's kind of based upon the conclusions or consensus that the group comes to in terms of how it's allocated out.
So you want to go, Muhammad, or Daphne want to go first, or it doesn't? I see all three of our hands are raised. So.
Whichever one of you two.
Yeah, whatever. Yes.
So I just wanted to thank a number of commissioners who expressed their position in a way that I couldn't. And Commissioner Ollie, thank you for kind of playing the devil's advocate, because I did not realize how strongly I felt about this, and until you did that. And so yeah, I just want to thank everybody for their honesty and their openness on this. I yield.
Yeah, and I'm just going to be really short. Then Harris, you can go next, and then Mohammed. Yeah, I just simply had asked other people what their thoughts were about this, and I kind of, I was like, what do you think that the public or the community would have to say about this TRC? Just because you all know reporters love us. They love the drama that's going on, and I just wouldn't put it past a reporter to be like, oh, after everything they've been through, now these guys want money. I don't, that's just kind of where I was coming from. But yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Harris. I promise I'm done talking now.
Okay, so I'm gonna say the first thing that I got to say about that. Everybody doesn't have money. Everybody is not rich. Also, I'm gonna call out a couple commissioners on a positive note. Commissioner Cliff, Commissioner Treoy, Ollie, Kevo. Y'all see the work I do in the community. Y'all see outside the TRC, I do a lot of work. You show up to events and I'm there. And I'm always there, whether it's, different communities, South District things, whether it's, other things like that. I'm almost always there, and so the part about the stipend thing, I'm a dad, and then part of my life is a single dad. I have a wife that I have children with, but I have other children that I take care of. And so to be compensated for what we're doing, I feel like it's a thing that we should do. Some of the commissions that I mentioned, they know what I'm saying, that when events happen, I'm there. Whether it's Iowa Cactus Worker House, which I saw a couple people there, this past week, whether it's things to do with Inside Out, whether it's things to do with the diversity market, whether it's things, and I know a few commissioners that's always there. They always there. What about their regular life? What about their jobs? What about their kids? We should be compensated for doing the work that we are doing. And some people might be well off and doing better than other people, but I think that's part of the problem in this country. Some people, they don't get that people take a lot of time out of their life because they want to be on commissions like this. They want to make a change. And with that, I yield.
Thank you. To be very frank right now, I really don't care what city council thinks. If they want to shame us for it, same with the media, if they want to try to shame us for it. And I know they have access to the recording, so I'm saying this on purpose, because when it comes to an interview for this, I'll repeat it the same time then, and just want to make it clear right now, I've already done many interviews with them where I'll be more frank, such as this, and really notice how they write those things, of cutting out so much of what you say just to get these little bits and pieces here and there. That's once again what I mean, of like, we keep getting used for these stories, for these clicks, for this, that, and the other. But what happens when all this is done? Where are they then? Are they going to keep following the stories? Are they going to keep doing this? They're going to keep doing that. And piece of advice I got from Henry Harper, from those of you that know him. So he was the community outreach officer, the youth directive for the Iowa City Police Department from 2015 to 2019. He's done so much work in the Iowa City area. This is one of those people that gave his life for this stuff. He's now the community relations coordinator for the National Development Council. Big reason why he's not here anymore is because a lot of the stuff he kept pushing for to get done and to get prioritized wasn't being respected, wasn't being done. So he decided up and move on. So for me, it's like, this is also about setting a precedent of You can't keep using people that want to help, that want to do something real just for the time that they're there, and then afterwards not actually implement those things, not do anything. So had I actually believed that the city would not do anything that we said and not care about those recommendations, I wouldn't be here right now. So I'm not arguing for the stipend thinking that it's not gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Otherwise, they're gonna hear a lot from not only myself, but from a lot of other people. Every single time someone asks me about this commission and I tell them all the stuff we do, same line every time. Oh, how much you get paid for that? Or wait, you do that for free? Every single time. For reference, I woke up at 5:15 today. I've been up since 5:15 a.m. There's not been 1 week over the last 4 months that between work, volunteering, helping people out with whatever it is, started a financial education podcast recently that all these people want to like partner with to have education for people on, et cetera. 70 to 90 hours a week, last 4 months. I'm not tired, I'm not stopping, et cetera. Like, for me, the money is not about me having extra money in my pocket. It's about me having extra money to keep advancing those other things, because my life doesn't stop at the end of the TRC. And this is not the only thing that matters to me. Other things that matter to me are having money to donate to causes I care about, and not having it be just the money I'm making from all of my work and the things I'm doing there. This is also work. Until that facilitator comes in, we're all doing his job or her job. So I just want to really put that piece out there.
Okay, so it sounds like most, if not all of us, are on the same page. I think the next step is discussing an amount and how often. So does anyone want to start with what they think? I feel like, I don't know, and like, I don't want to put you on the spot, Mo, but do you have an idea of it? Like, I know that you said those numbers are mumbo jumbo, so I don't want to go off of what you said on the budget, but like, is there a number that you're thinking of in your head? Because if we're, I think the number that got said last time was $250, maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to know what people are thinking or what that even looks like. What is enough for you guys?
I'll put it this way. When it comes to city council, I think they're about 14,000 or something like that a year. And what they deal with is what's going on in the here and now in the current year. And we're being tasked with looking back decades, most of us from literally before we were born. Yet, you know, so for me, I think a floor of 500 to begin the conversation. And I think the ceiling should be at that 1,000 mark. So somewhere in that range, whatever people want to do. And I also think it should be monthly.
Correct you really quick, council makes $9K a year. The mayor makes $14K.
Well, that too, but
it's actually 12K, I think.
Yeah, they raised it a few years ago. I'm pretty sure.
It's 12K.
The reasoning they gave.
Sorry, 12K. Yeah, they get $1,000 a month as council members.
Yeah, the reasoning they gave for raising it as well was that they want it to be so that people of lower incomes or people from backgrounds that they don't have more money can feel comfortable serving on things like city council without losing out on income and things of that nature. So that's the rationale they gave for upping their own pay. So I just want to put that out there.
This is Commissioner Harris. I'm gonna be, every time when I talk, I'm pretty frank about things. During the pandemic that happened, some members like Cliff and Sakawis and Chastity and Daphne, we went through the whole pandemic and we were working on things. I mean, things didn't happen the way it should have happened, but we spent, most of the time during the pandemic on these Zoom calls, 4 and 5 hours at times. I'm not saying to go back and pay us for those times, but going forward, we should get paid. I mean, if we're going to offer somebody $65,000 a year to be a facilitator, which I know that's changed now, that's a lot of money, and I think about $65,000, that's a lot of money, My house struggles to make that. We could be close to that amount, but my house struggles to make that amount with 3 people working. And so it shouldn't really be an argument. And I kind of agree with what the chair said. You know, if city council wants to talk stuff about it, news outlets want to talk about it, they use us for this whole year for news stories. Because probably out of all the commissioners on this commission, I've probably done more news stories than anybody, and haven't got paid a cent, not $1. Maybe it was the army truck, maybe it's the expanding of shootings in this neighborhood, maybe it was, you know, about voting rights. But I've done more interviews. I'm just estimating, but I think I've done more interviews than anybody on this whole commission. So with that, I yield.
I also just I don't want to do this. The whole thing with what makes me feel uncomfortable about this whole process is I don't want to do that, you know, I've done this in the last this many months, so I deserve this, but you haven't done this much, and I've done more than you. And I just don't want that to happen. I think that's counterproductive to the goal that we have at the end as a commission. And going back to what Commissioner Wangui said earlier about, you know, those other areas where they had the TRC, where their commissioners got paid. I agree. I think that the 2 TRCs that I have done research on, well, I think that they deserved to have gotten some type of stipend. But one thing about it, I don't want to, if we're going to agree on this stipend, I think that we should agree on the stipend. I don't want to get into the messy game of, you know, well, I did 6 interviews this month, and I also was in the, you know, this for this many times, and I went to this many things. And I think that that's going to be counterproductive to the goal, because I think that we've all agreed that we deserve something. So now let's figure out what that something is, rather than trying to tally up or compare what we've all done compared to one another, because I don't think that that's going to do anything but, you know, take us steps back. And I'm going to yield to Sakawis with that.
I don't think that anybody needs to, like I said last time, they need to defend themselves or give reasoning for why they're getting this money, or what they're going to do with it, or what they've done in the past to deserve this this money. I think that our work speaks for ourselves, being on this committee, and the committee in and of itself, being a Truth and Reconciliation Committee, should probably just like do some truth and reconciliation and reparations. And that's what it's about. So like I said, again, it like the work we're doing is for the community, and then we are a reflection of that work in and of itself, being here doing this, what we're doing. So I don't need to tell anybody like why I deserve the money. And I don't think anybody else here should do that either. And I think that everybody here is well known for their good work in the community and in Iowa and throughout the nation. And yeah, I just want to say I really agree with what Eric is saying, and I want to say again, I don't think we should feel bad about it. I don't feel bad about it. I mean, why would I feel bad about this? Are you serious? Like, this is why we're here. I would be proud to say that we created compensation for a BIPOC committee working towards truth and reconciliation. Like, that to me is a feat. I am proud of that. So this is what I've been working towards my whole life. I've been doing this work since I was 19 years old, and I refuse to do it for free for, you know, generally like white communities, which is what we're doing right now, so they can, you know, feel better about themselves. I'm doing this work so that we can uplift the voices of our people and like make the world better for our people who are like facing serious oppression, dealing with, you know, banning critical race theory and like legislation, the Iowa legislator, all this stuff. We have such an uphill battle. Like, I'm sorry, but I just cannot do this work for free anymore. So thank you.
I agree, Sakawis. I think that you made a great point. And I hope that chair talks after this. I think with this stipend also what we should do, because I think that's now maybe the second or third time that someone has brought up the amount of hours that we are in these private meetings. Or in these public meetings. I think that if we're going to do a stipend, then we should also include like maybe like hours, like a pay per hour for the meeting on top of like whatever the other number may be. Because some, I think, I don't know if that's some way to make what Commissioner Harris was saying more fair, because I do understand that before there was this initial commission, we did have meetings that went on for hours and hours. But I want to try to come up with, I think the next step is coming up with what we think that number is and what the frequency is of that stipend. That's where I think the next step is.
Okay,
And
so I'll go again, Muhammad, real quick. I see hands raised, but I just get what I got to say out the way because I see Daphne hand raised and your hand raised. So one of the things, I'm gonna be pretty frank about it, chairperson Mohammed and co-chairperson Ali, they know the hours that we spend because co-chairperson Ali was just with me. We didn't get paid for none of that stuff. We just hung out and talked about issues. Last night, chairperson Muhammad, he was with me and we talked about a lot of things. We don't get paid for that stuff. Cliff, Commissioner Member Cliff, he was with me at that hot house, at that it was so hot in there. And that was a good thing that happened, Also, Kevo was there with us and he saw what happened. The transformation that we're trying to do and try to restore things and get things together is very important. So when people say, how they feel about getting compensated for things like that, well, the city might say this, the news agencies might say this, or they might say that. Who cares? I don't really care because they're not doing the work. And with that, I'm gonna yield to the people.
thank you. One thing, so Daphne, I will give you a chance to speak right after this, but I just want to say real quick that once again, we don't have to vote on a concrete number today or time. I'm just happy we're at least talking about it. We've said that we want to pass this budget July 8th. We do have opportunities to speak amongst each other, subcommittees, and actually do that final vote on payment schedules, payment amounts in the next meeting. So if we'd rather take more time to have that conversation, that's okay with me. Just my priority for today is to at least know going into the next meeting, are we even going to vote to pass the idea of a stipend? So if we'd like to do that tonight,
I think
would like
we
to have a
already
vote on
have
it.
though, no, I think that we've all agreed though. Do we need to have a vote if all of us, the consensus is that we all agree on it? I think that we've all kind of said that we agree that this is necessary. And I think that I genuinely believe that we should not have to vote on whether we get it or not. I think what we should have to vote on or make the decision on is whether it's, this many dollars or this many dollars. I think that's what the important decision is. And I'm going to yield to Daphne.
I actually just want to make a motion because I think we have gotten far enough in this discussion where we can have a vote on whether we would like to include a line item in the operational budget for stipends for the commissioners. And we can determine the amount and I'm blanking on the
maybe, I don't know, that's for lack of a better term, frequency.
frequency. Yes, thank you. For some reason I wanted to say periodical. Frequency of the payments. or of the stipends or of the disbursements or of the allocation, however you want to describe it. But we can do that at a later meeting and just vote to include that line item. And then the budget subcommittee will have some ability to discuss it at our next subcommittee meeting.
As a point of
Before-
discussion,
Yeah.
before someone seconds
Go
that.
ahead, Kevo.
No, she didn't make a motion. So yeah, I was gonna say before she makes that motion, I want to make sure you had a chance to discuss say what you were gonna say.
Thanks. I've really appreciated the discussion tonight. It was like, I think it was just really a lot more opportunities for us to sort of really justify our positions on things. I worry that if we don't come up with at least a ballpark number of what everyone's comfortable with, then our budget subcommittee is just going to be kind of not really be able to do very much work in our next subcommittee meeting. And you know, we were kind of at this place at the very end of our last public meeting where we were all kind of on board with this and moving forward with having a stipend. And so when we look at sort of the end result, there actually hasn't been very much movement, which is the reason why I would like to come up with a number that people are comfortable with.
Yeah, yeah.
I would definitely agree with that before we make any type of, I mean, and I agree with Daphne. I think, and Steph can correct me if I'm wrong, I think that since we're all kind of on the same page about we deserve this, then we don't have to make a motion on it. I think that we should talk about the frequency and how much. So,
and the last thing that I wanted to mention, and then I'll yield, is we've talked a lot about having sort of our words taken out of context and our justifications not being sort of correctly represented. And I just would suggest that either our subcommittee or the people who feel really strongly about this kind of lead the charge in coming up with a press release that we can also vote on when we submit our budget, so that we as a commission can kind of in one voice say, here's how we came to this reasoning and why we think this is important work, not only for the people on this commission, but also like a good example of what we'd like to see in this community. I don't necessarily think that I should be the one to write that press release. And so maybe I can volunteer either chair or vice chair to accept anyone else is volunteering on that part.
I can go next real quick. I got a unique idea that I just thought of. I think it should be a one-time payment and it should be a significant amount, but I think that whatever charity or cause that people have, I think that half of the significant amount should go to that, and then they get the rest of it. And you have to, and then that way, when you go to the news or media, you could say, hey, you know, I might have got $1,500 or I might have got $1,000, but I put 500 of that toward this charity, and I took 500, you know, because of my work. And so just as a brainstorming idea that I came up with, you know, I just thought about that right now, you know, and then and by doing that, you can show, you know, because the city or media might have something to say. You can be like, hey, well, they gave me $1,000 one-time payment for being on the TRC, but I took 500 of that and I donated that to a cause that I believe in. With
Eric, I think that you are coming from such a great place in your heart, but as a Black man, you don't owe anyone an explanation for what this money you use it for. I'm just telling you that right now. I think that should be the consensus with all of us as you know, BIPOC individuals. I don't think that we should entertain any, I mean, if you want to donate the money, donate the money. If you want to that's not anyone else's business. Frankly, I don't think that anyone should have the right to ask you about that. And this kind of goes into what we talked about, you know, at our subcommittee meeting with education with Commissioner Gathua, is like, you know, you don't have to feel guilty or feel like you have to prove anything to anyone for this, you know?
I mean, I agree. I agree with what you're saying, but like some people brought up what the media are going to say or what the city is going to say about us.
Yeah, and then so my answer to that is everyone is capable of not responding to the media. Eric, you know my situation that I have with the media currently, and it's because I don't respond to them at all in any way, shape, or form. You are completely capable of not responding to the media if you don't want to. And I'm going to say this like one for very last time, nobody owes anyone an explanation on any way, shape, or form that they spend this stipend. And I don't want to have this discussion about, you know, people feeling guilty or, you know, what they're going to do or having to prove that they're going to donate this, because the fact of the matter is, I think that we've decided that we're going to get the stipend. It's nobody's business what we do with it. I firmly believe that
Yeah.
in my heart of
Yeah.
hearts. And
Yeah.
I would love for the chair to speak now, because I have taken a lot of this time and I want to hear
No,
what he has to say.
no, just one more thing. Just one more thing. I don't need the money, but I do want the money. So I see what you're saying, and I know we don't have to pay attention to what the media
It's not my
says.
business if you need or don't need the money, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's nobody's business if you need or don't need the money. We've made the decision already, though. I want that to be where your headspace is. It doesn't matter. We don't have to explain ourselves to anyone who's asking for an explanation. We can
So I
do the
think-
press release. That can be the end of it.
Just to
So I
make
think-
this,
So I think for time's sake, I think we should have a vote on something. Are we going to do it? The amount, either one of those, you know.
We should talk. We
one
need
of
to
those
talk amounts. We need to talk amounts right now.
Yeah, yeah.
just to be succinct.
But I want to
as
hear
a-
from other people too, you know, like kind of Cliff and, you know, some other
Yeah.
people. And I want to hear from them and see what they think about it, because I think we need to have some type of vote so that we can't go past this meeting without a vote, because we're going to be right back next week on the same stuff.
I just want to say two things very quickly. I don't know if there's a need to be concerned about the so-called media. I assume you mean like reporters who are actually getting paid for their work. So
Yeah.
you would hope they'd understand wanting to get paid for your labor. And I actually want to say I do need the money, because I feel like at the very basic essential, as a human, I expect to get some type of value for my labor. And so it's a mental thing. Like, we're putting in a lot of work in this, and I'd like to be like valued for that. For too long, my ancestors were not valued for their labor and toil, and I think that needs to end. So I yield.
I'll just make it quick and simple to start the debate. I think $1,000 payable the last week of the month. Every month you're on the commission. Start the debate there.
Chair, I just wanted to mention, I know there's been discussion of whether or not there needs to be a vote on whether or not to do stipends, and obviously that's up to the commission. But what I will say is, if you take a vote, there's a record that there's unanimous support, right? You might not get unanimous support on the amount. You might get 7-2, you know, and so I guess in my opinion, I don't know what the harm is to show that 9 commissioners think there needs to be a stipend, but it's up to the commission. But you know, you may run into different vote outcomes, even though you've all decided on having a stipend. And then there's really no record unless somebody's literally going to go through the transcript to see that all 9 people initially agreed on this. So that's my 2 cents, but I guess I don't see where it would hurt. But
Yeah, I'd have to say I agree. I was just more throwing that out there for whether we vote on amount, frequency or not tonight, that everyone at least knows my personal position. So you can go over these next 2 weeks and can reach out to each other otherwise and get that information out to budget subcommittee or myself or anyone else on the commission, so we can really have that decided. But yes, Stephanie, I do see what you mean.
I think we should talk about it now.
I think we should
Yeah,
vote
or
on the
vote-
amount, and then I
vote-
see Cliff want to say something too, so let him say something, because like you want to say something. So
Yeah, this is Commissioner Johnson. I was under the impression we were already doing that. So I mean, that's where I believe we should be. Other than that, discussing how much and when, that's where I figured the next step is. So let's just take that and move on.
So somebody
Mohammed?
going to propose.
I can't propose a motion.
I was just actually going to say, so Okay, so I'm gonna make the motion that we get stipends. Will anybody like to second that motion?
I second you, Commissioner Ali. This is Commissioner Gadua seconding that
And
motion.
Any
for
further
stipend.
discussion? Oh, sorry. Any further discussion? Okay, Commissioner Ali,
Yes.
Commissioner Daniel,
Yes.
Commissioner Dillard,
Yes.
Commissioner Gathua,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Rivera,
Yes.
Commissioner Sikowis,
Yes.
and Commissioner Traore.
Yes.
Thank you, 9-0.
I also want to touch on one thing that the chairperson said. He said $1,000 every fourth week. Do we have to wait till the next meeting to talk about the amount, or can we just figure
We
that
want to
out
talk
right
about
now?
the amount now. We want to talk about the amount now. He just wanted to get that just for purposes of, the votes and stuff. So nobody would have to look back on the meeting to know that we all unanimously decided. So opinions are welcome.
Because I would, well, this is my opinion. He said $1,000. I would say about 1,100, 1,200, and I don't know if I need to put a motion for that to vote about that, but I mean, we might as well get it out the way so we can move forward.
Yeah, can we have more of a discussion before, the motion gets put out? I just want to know where other people's heads at, because, 1,000, that would infinitely help me, but I want to know where everyone else's head at and what they think too, before we put that motion out, because we do need to discuss it. So
Cassidy
I'm going
has
to
his
yield to
hand up.
Commissioner Dillard.
As I just wanted to know more about, obviously, I could definitely use $1,000 a month. Don't get me wrong. I want to know more. Why are you saying $1,000? Is it because it's a round number? Like, can you, I guess I'm asking our chair, can you say why that is the number that you decided? I yield the floor.
I decided on $1,000 a month because that comes out to the rate that each city council member is paid. And once again, they work on things that occurred during the year, whereas we are tasked with not only trying to catch up on things currently occurring, but things that have either not been addressed due to people being short-sighted or just not having the wherewithal to go forward and actually address those things,
Well, not
or
being
just people
addressed
not
because of
caring in the
systematic
past.
racism.
Exactly, that too. So
I
like,
just want to add that.
oh, no, you're fine. But yeah, there's a lot of this stuff that we're just looking at that's not just here and now, but also involves what's currently going on. So I think it should be at a rate even to them. Also because many of us also go to their meetings on top of it. And there's only one or two of them that have even come to these, and they always have that open invitation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Chair.
I think that just to get to the end of this, what he said was very true. We should have a vote on that about the amount, because if it's equal, it could be lesser than what the city council gets. That wouldn't matter to me, but it should be equal to that. So I don't know why we shouldn't have a vote about it, because we wrangling and haggling around about things about money, and we haven't really had no truths except for the undocumented immigrants. When we had that truth, and we need to get to that part. So with that, I yield.
Go ahead, Commissioner Daniel.
Thank you. I think we should wait until the next meeting to take a vote on an amount. I think we need to have a better reason than because that's how much city council makes. So if we want to discuss over the next 2 weeks, figure out how much time we're spending at the meetings on average, how much time we're spending, and like we need to be very specific on TRC work, not other community work. But the time we spend on the subcommittees, the time we spend researching some of the issues that we're bringing forward to subcommittees and to commission meetings, we'll have a better idea on what is a reasonable amount, and then also a better, more persuasive argument for why we have chosen this amount. I yield.
I like that idea. It also gives us time to do things such as ask some of the reporters listening in, or that will eventually ask questions, to also ask city council how much time they spend monthly. And we can also call city council and ask them how much time they spend monthly, because I feel like that kind of makes the, comparison and also calculation easier.
Earlier, Commissioner Rivera mentioned something about, a press release. I would be more than happy to take that on. I think that maybe we should discuss if it's more important to do this before the next meeting and just kind of let people know that this is what we're asking. Like, not even a number, just say, hey, this is what we're going to do and why. Or do you guys think that we should wait until we have that specific number? I'm personally going to reach out to just Dion Braxton because I support his work that he does, and I think that he has been the most supportive to this commission and to the members of this commission. And I think that that is the reporter I would give my time to, but I just want to make sure that if that the point that Commissioner Rivera made about the press release is thought about, because I do think that that is an important point. And I was wondering if/when with you guys. We're not going to decide a number. Should we wait till after we decide a number? Should we do it sooner rather than later? Sooner rather than later, so that we can kind of gauge what the public thinks? Or would you guys just rather wait until it's all done?
I was imagining that we just submit it with our budget proposal.
Okay.
I'll start working on a rough outline of one, and then I can ask each of you what you think of it, and then can add to it from there. That way we can come into the next meeting with kind of like outline and structure already prepared.
Okay.
And once you have a finalized news release, you can send it to me, and it will get released through the city channels. So.
If anyone else would, like to chime in terms of like the actual like creation and structure of it, feel free. Like, I'm not saying it has to just be me. I'm just saying I'm fine to start at least jotting some things out.
Hey, Commissioner Triore, I'm going to start it, and I'm going to reach out to some people, and then me and you can touch base next week. You don't need another thing on your plate, and I have a lot of free time, so I'm just going to start it and maybe talk to a couple of connections that I have within the College of Law at the university, just to help me kind of maybe articulate this in a much better sense. And I do believe, I'm not sure, Commissioner Daniel, have you had your hand up this whole time, or are you waiting to say something?
No, I am not. Well, I probably have. I keep forgetting to lower my hand. So
no worries. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss you. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss you. So then it sounds like at the next meeting, we're going to have a final vote on what the stipend is, the amount is.
Amount and frequency, from what I'm hearing, unless there's any objections to that.
And then also with amount and frequency, we're also going to have a draft for the press release.
Yeah, which we could finalize at the same meeting.
Yeah, and I can start working on it with others, and then whenever we meet for budget, I'll show you guys, and then I'll send it with the paperwork for our meeting 2 weeks from now.
And I would add too that if you need a person to put their face out there to talk to somebody, I know Emil has some issues with the media right now, so I'll always be willing to do it. So,
Eric, the media has issues with me. It's not what you think. I just don't respond because I don't care.
So I don't really do have anything to do with the media because I don't think I pick up my phone if anyone calls. So what I'm going to say is I'm offering to do any edits, proofreading. Yeah.
Perfect. So maybe I'll start writing up a draft. I think some of this stuff that actually Sakawas had said in the last meeting was really powerful. So I might just listen to that and kind of use that verbiage because and even Commissioner Gethu and I were talking about this the other day. Like if it wouldn't have been for what she said, I probably wouldn't have, thought that it might have been a good idea. So if that's okay with you, Commissioner Sakawas, yeah, I'll go back and read that, and then I will, communicate with people in the budget subcommittee, and I'll get this sent out via Stephanie in the next, hopefully, week. I have it written down, and I'll get a little draft sent out, and we can add and do changes, and I'll put it in the Google Doc so that we can all kind of work on it together, if that's okay with you guys.
And the last thing I say, I'm always available for a good fire or barbecue. So between meetings, if anybody want to come talk, you can do that. So any of the commission members. So a couple of them know about it, but we've had good talks with people in the community. So if you ever want to have a good talk, just give me a couple hours advance, and I cook up some good food and start a nice fire. So with that idea,
I'll respond. And I'm not raising my hand because I can't find my feature. I'm not even seeing people when they raise up their hands for some reason today on my screen. I'm responding to Commissioner Ollie, and I'll just say if I can also offer to proofread, and I should be pretty good. I grade, so yeah. So I can offer that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, and yeah, Commissioner Sakawi's, what you told us was really, it made us move and feel, yeah, it's really with us. It was really, really powerful. So I would go for it
Thank you.
if we use your words.
It's just a long time of organizing and realizing how important my work is.
Yeah. Then the other thing, as far as the figure is concerned, because even at the Kevo, what meeting were we? The meeting that we had, your meeting on health. He threw the figure out there of 1,000. I've had it again with the chair, Treori, and then I've had Eric mention 1,100, 1,200. Anything around that, I'll go with the figures, not because they've been mentioned. It's not that they've just been planted in my brain, but also Commissioner, the chair, you supported that with where you're coming from. For Commissioner Rivera, he said, I'm throwing out that figure out there. Yeah, but now there is the argument. And even when I think back, I said I've worked in commissions and committees which are Eurocentric and African-centric. And that those figures fit in. That's why I'm going on with that. And the backing and the support of those arguments that's out there. It's a figure that is making sense, and the frequency too. So for me, whether we wait 2 weeks from now, I'm with that figure around 1,000 and 1,200, sub around there. So that's what I'll go with as I continue reading and just looking at other work that has been done on this.
I just want to clarify. I threw out the number 1,000 because that was what was sort of pended on our document at the time we were discussing it. I haven't come up with an amount. I just wanted that clarified.
Okay.
I think that this is a really good place to end, actually, for like this conversation. I think that we all have a sense of where everyone is. I will work on this press release in the next 10 days. I will send it to the people that I need to send it to in order to proofread and look through it. then hopefully 14 days from now, we can approve it. And in that time, maybe the budget committee, let's focus on just getting something really good and solid for what we're going to do for the stipend, at least for the next meeting. Let's make that a goal to have at least, a stipend amount or formula or whatever figured out, because I think that is going to be important. Does anyone have anything else to say about this budget?
This is Commissioner Dillard. I just wanted to also offer my help to you, Commissioner Ollie, because I have worked on press releases in the past.
Perfect. I'm totally going to take advantage of that. Thank you so much.
All right, sounds like from there we're on to, so we had agenda item number 5 earlier, so we're now on to agenda item number 6, which would be community topics for discussion. So this is A, Excluded Workers Fund, B, the South District Neighborhood Association and Diversity Market, C, Juneteenth celebrations. Before we do begin on this aspect, I would like to ask if anyone from the community in the meeting would like to say anything on these topics before we begin. Okay, so with that,
we want to add something like to discuss for like community topic, if we're all in agreement about adding it, or like, I just wasn't sure, are these the only 3 topics that we're allowed to speak about, or can I bring something else up during this time if it's related to community engagement?
It would have need to have been on the agenda for the public to have noticed that the commission was going to discuss it.
yeah, 'cause,
Okay.
we can still talk
So
about it in terms of the announcements.
Well, yeah, so then I'm going to push for next time when we're writing out the agenda, not to put any specific things on it for like A, B, and C, just so that we can kind of have an open discussion semi like we did last week, because there are some things that I really want your guys' feedback on. And I think that Commissioner Dillard would appreciate your
Mel,
feedback.
I think that we've
I
had this
think-
discussion before, and Steph clarified that anything that goes in this section has to be explicitly stated and the public has to be notified.
On the Excluded Workers Fund, I do know that Commissioners Harris, Johnson, and Rivera did have the opportunity to go to the Iowa Catholic Worker House event last weekend. Fortunately, this was one of those situations where I was doing a lot last weekend and I couldn't make it, but I did see the pictures and I was updated on everything from some of you, but also as well from David Goodner, and looked like 1, an amazing event, 2, sad to have missed it, and 3, if you guys have anything else you'd like to share with the commission, I think it'd be really beneficial.
Yeah, so I can go real quick. Cliff was there, Kevo was there. Both of those guys were there. It was pretty uncomfortable in there because of the temperature situations, but it was kind of similar to when we had them come and speak at our meeting. I think it was not the last meeting, but the meeting before that. When they spoke about the struggles and the difficulties that they went through, I was almost in tears again, and it was just terrible to hear the stories. And to help people that have been left out during the pandemic, I think it's a good thing that we put, that we want to back them up with that. David is a good guy. I was even able to take my children over there, because they had other children in the backyard, because I was wondering, I was like, well, I got my children with me, but they accommodated my children really well. One of the things they talked about is that the people that struggled before pandemic, they struggled during the pandemic, and they're going to struggle after the pandemic. And so the thing to bring up, he told me that he thinks that the Excluded Workers Fund thing is going to pass through the Johnson County supervisors, but he needs more help. he needs people to put more pressure on the Johnson County supervisors about this, because he believes that they're going to try to, they have, I don't know the amount of millions that they have, but he thinks that they're going to try to give him $100,000 and just say, here, take this. And that's not enough money. That's not enough at all for all the people that are affected in Iowa City and the whole community. So if more people, I was very, very happy to see, some fellow commissioner members who showed up that I didn't even know. The first person I seen when I went there was Kevo when I got out of my truck, and I seen Kevo was there, and I was like, yes, this is what we need. So that's about, as far as I can go with the update until I talk to David.
I just want to say that I'm going to some events over the next week where I'll get to run into some of these people making these decisions, and I will be very sure to talk to them about it. So of course, some of them have ducked emails, phone calls, texts. So I get to see them in person now. So
I will also add that another thing that I left out is at that event, Cliff and Kevo knows that John Green was there, and he told us that one of the first things that he told us when we talked to him is that he was like, I'm willing to stay all night to talk to people. And he did that. I left before he left. So that's kind of one of the people that we maybe in the future we can have him as a guest speaker, because he really means good, and he stayed there. I think, yeah, when me, Cliff, and Kevo left, John Green was still there. So with that, I yield.
Can you bring the agenda back up? Was the South District one of those topics?
Yep.
Okay, so then I guess Chastity, you can jump in whenever you want, because this event has to do with the South District, and I think that it's important that we decide if we want to be involved in this or not. So if you want to take over, Chastity, and talk about the National Night Out, because that's kind of like you're kind of helping plan that, and I want to make sure you get to say what you want to say about it.
I think
Before we go there, can I just say something about the Excluded Workers Fund?
Yeah, go ahead, because I think that the South Issue is the next topic after this one. So
yeah, I just wanted to say I missed what you guys, Commissioner Harris and Kevo, attended there, because I guess I missed the information. If there's something else, and especially when we touch on support, I would want to attend, because I'm also talking to the NISA management, so that the NISA, African Family Services Organization, can also be part of the support, and as an organization, so that we can also be part of that, because we will also benefit when they go through.
I will send you the information.
Yeah, so that we can also formalize that. I just didn't catch the date properly and the time of the event, so that I can go there also representing the organization, and the organization being behind their work. Yeah, thank you. I yield.
And Chair Traore, I saw Commissioner Johnson's hand raised. Okay.
Yeah, me too. I saw his hand raised too. So
yeah, I was just speaking about the time when we were over at the Catholic Workers House. I do believe John Green is somebody that we should definitely tap into, and it was good seeing our fellow commissioners there. There is a lot of work that's being done on the outskirts that should be recognized, and use the right people in the right places to kind of help us push along. I feel like John Green would be somebody that we should definitely try to tap into as well. So that
Yeah, and I would say really quickly that when I was speaking at that event, I saw Cliff or Commissioner Johnson. He was sitting on the floor. And so when I saw that, I was like, yes, this is what we need to tap into with that idea.
I'd like to agree with the statement on John Green. Definitely someone that we want to keep in touch with. Literally the morning after his election victory. So that night, DM'd him on Twitter asking if he'd have time within the next week to talk. And, he was like, how about tomorrow morning? Which was surprising because there are a lot of other members of these city councils in the county, some members of the board of supervisors, once again, ducking calls, emails, texts. And this guy just gets elected and the next morning is willing to have a phone call. And we also saw him at the Juneteenth event and just keep seeing him everywhere. And he looks dead tired, but he's still out there doing the work, and remember, yeah, me and Eric talked to him as well. We're just like, man, you gotta rest for a second. And he said, and it was really nice hearing him say this, it's like, this is my job, this is what I signed up for. So definitely a good person to stay in touch with. Do we have anything else on this first one? Or are we ready for South District Neighborhood Association / Diversity Market? All right, so Chastity, want to give you the opportunity to talk on that.
So I don't know if there's other things related to this line item, but I, as everyone may or may not know, I work for the Neighborhood Centers of Johnson County, and we're partnering with the South District Neighborhood Association along with other organizations to put on National Night Out. The date is Tuesday, August 3rd. So it's the first Tuesday in August. And if you don't know, the goal and the point of the event is to bring the community together and to also facilitate more community connections with our first responders, which is police officers, people who work, first responders, firefighters, things like that. So this would be a good opportunity, I believe, for us as a TRC to host a truth-telling session. It has actually been requested by community members. So I was hoping we could talk about if this is something we'd be interested in. It's gonna be at Weatherby Park. So it's gonna be on the south side, southeast side, which is where we really have a huge concentration, need to focus on for a lot of things right now. And I'm planning it. So we have full access to what we need. It can be either during the event, before, after, however we see fit.
What date was it again?
It's Tuesday, August 3rd. I believe our times are 6 to 8. I might need to double check that, but it's around that time.
Okay.
And so with that, I think that, so Chastity has told me about this event at our education committee meetings. I think that it would be really good opportunity for us to hone in on some of this marginalized population also while like receiving really great testimony. I don't know what this would look like. I don't know if it's like necessarily, kind of how we were talking about earlier, if there's more than a certain amount of us, then it's technically like a public meeting, and then there would need to be Channel 4 and stuff there. So I'm open to discussing the idea of having less of us there and doing that so that, Channel 4 doesn't have to be there. But then also the question came up, and this is a staff question. Let's say Chastity is there and she's representing the neighborhood centers of Johnson County, but there is 4 of us there representing the TRC. And, let's say for some weird reason, the University of Iowa Healthcare decides to have a thing there, and then we have another commissioner. Is there rules about that? What does that look like? I mean, all 9 of us are at the Jazz Fest, but we're not talking about commissioner things, then I would assume that that's fine. But I also don't want to make this an event for us to sign up for if we have special circumstances that we have to work under because of our legal status or whatever.
Yeah, so again, I kind of heard two different things. If 9 commission members are at the Jazz Fest, individually just enjoying it, that's not TRC business, right?
Okay.
Unless for some reason the TRC has decided to take up the Jazz Fest as something that is a matter. Okay, so but if you're speaking of going to National Night Out and holding a what I believe was called a truth-telling session, then yeah, you're City Channel 4 doesn't have anything to do with that. Where it becomes important is then there would need to be an agenda posted, because that would be considered a meeting if there are a quorum of TRC members there doing a truth-telling session. So
Just so you guys know as well, there's already a scheduled meeting for that Thursday, so that's something to think about as well. So we could also just kind of make that a special meeting week or something and roll stuff back. I don't know, but
and I kind of got a question, well, kind of a twofold. Well, I got a question and a statement. And my question is for Stephanie. What about, when we go down to things like Juneteenth and the Channel 4 guys comes up for an interview? Can we do those, or are we supposed to do those, or?
I mean, yeah, there's definitely no restrictions on a commission member's ability to speak to the press or to a news outlet.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, that's not a problem.
And just the other thing that I would say, like, thank you to Chastity for promoting her event in our neighborhood. That's a good thing. Also, we don't want to leave out that we have 2 more diversity markets in the South District on the next 2 Saturdays. That's a good thing that's been going on, and I want people, we can't have, other people have other commitments and things like that, but on the first diversity market, when I came up to it, the first person I saw was the chairperson, Muhammad, directing traffic in the middle of the street. So we need more help over there with the diversity market. It's a really good thing. Every time I talk to Muhammad about going there, he said, well, I'm going to show up at this time because I want to shop first. And then, I have to.
I hate to interrupt you, Eric. I'm so sorry. I want to make sure that we finish the conversation about the National Night Out before we start talking about the diversity market, just because those are 2 really important things happening in the South District. But I don't want people to think that these 2 are intertwined or related. So for the sake,
it has nothing to do with being related or intertwined. Like the agenda topic was South District and the diversity market. It wasn't even.
So then are we done talking about what we need to do as a commission, or what we want to do as a commission for the National Night Out? Because
I'd say this, when it comes to National Night Out, it sounds like it's too early to concretely plan what exactly we can do for it. Because if we're going to have a truth-telling session there, we still have to come up with a truth-telling process, which we have talked about earlier in the meeting, that we need to get a concrete set of things on. So I would like to do something like that, but there's just not much else we can say on it until we even have that process created. And also that ties into, if we're going to have video taken or anything, we talked about tabling the videographer thing. So how again do we do that? So it's a longer conversation.
And again, I have been asking and begging and questioning the need for a videographer when we don't have a process. So we're trying to make a process happen. I think that we should prioritize this because this is a good opportunity where there will be a lot of people present. So
then it should be its own agenda topic.
Then
exactly, it should be agenda topic like other things.
Okay, and is it all right if I finish what I'm saying?
Yep.
I don't think that we should miss out on this opportunity. I don't think that it's a question of should we or should we not participate in this because I feel like we definitely should. I think the question should be is how are we going to get this process moving forward, and how are we going to get people to know that we're going to be there before this event happens? And I am more than happy to take every single step of action towards that, working with Commissioner Dillard. I'm totally for that. I don't mind. I just wanted to make sure that my whole thing wasn't talking about what we were going to do. My whole thing was, I just want to make sure that everyone else is okay with the TRC being represented at this activity. Not, you
But-
know, but if we're, I'm just saying, can the TRC be like, you know, affiliated with this? Is that okay? That's, I
Yes.
think, what
I have a point of
I think
inference.
it's just premature to make that concrete decision. That's why I want it as its own agenda item for a full discussion. But I just want to say, when it comes to going to the event, I added it to my calendar 10 minutes ago. That's why I asked the date again. Like, I'll be there. I'm
Yeah,
just
I'll be
saying
there
that, like,
too, but it has to
I
be.
don't want to say we're gonna make it a truth-telling thing before we have a process, before we plan all that
I'm
out.
not saying let's make this a truth-telling thing. I'm saying, can the truth and reconciliation be involved? Can we be like co-involved with the efforts that they're making for this national night out? That's what I'm trying to say. Does Chastity have the permission to use our likeness for that event? Is that like, I mean, kind of, and Commissioner Daniel, can you go ahead? I don't want to talk over you or take the time that you're speaking.
So thank you. I'm a little confused on which agenda item this is. And I also don't think this is something that we need to hash out at a public meeting when it's clear that even some of the commissioners are not really, don't really understand how we got to talking about this. So I think we can assign this either a subcommittee, or we can discuss this at different subcommittees and see who would be available to put in like the work that's needed to allow us to participate in whatever capacity that the organization would like us to participate in. I yield.
Yeah.
And
We're on 6, item B, the South District Neighborhood Association and Diversity Market. The Broadway Neighborhood Center is who is doing this event, and they are located in the South District. And I want to let
Chastity and Secaucus.
Yeah, and Secaucus speak.
let her
Have their hands up.
Thank you, commissioners. So just to reiterate what Commissioner Ollie said, and to respond to Commissioner Daniels. So I was under the impression that since it is part of the South District Neighborhood Association, that we could talk about it during this time. I don't know what more to say about that, but I do agree, maybe we can move this to a subcommittee. And since I'm a part of the education subcommittee, I think it would be fitting with that. So if everyone's okay with that, we'll just end the discussion and then go from there. And then at the next meeting, we can make it an agenda item and have a full discussion, if that's okay.
Okay, someone else has a hand up too, so.
I'd also be happy to, yeah, if you want to have a phone call before the next meeting or anything, please, yeah, feel free. That way I kind of just know like how exactly to like talk with the mail about how to outline that budget item. I mean, agenda item, so we like have it directly on there in a way that you can speak on it any way you need to.
Yeah, I hope it didn't come off that I was calling anyone out or trying to scold anyone. We're talking about two different events that both should deserve their own agenda item. And I'm not as familiar with the Broadway Neighborhood Center or anything like that. So I was actually just a little confused. So thank you for clarifying. I yield.
Yeah, and then I go too, because I
mean, we still have Secaucus right after you, but then
well, she took her hand down. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm okay. I wanted to just encourage us to stick to the topic and keep moving because it's getting late.
That's true. I just want to say that, you know, the whole South District neighborhood, I had to fight to get things about the South District on the agendas and things like that. So I believe that National Night Out is not on the agenda. The South District neighborhood and the diversity market, which we have done for the past 2 weeks, is.
Hey, where's National Night Out located at? Can you just let me know where Night Out is located?
I just want to say as well, let's not get into the animosity of things. Like we have said that we will cover this.
Where National Night Out will be. That is a question.
But that's not on the agenda.
But I can ask for clarification. Where is National Night Out at?
But when I talked about South District in the past and it wasn't on the agenda, then we had to wait to get it on the agenda. So I think that.
But Eric, then it got on the agenda. Nobody's arguing with you here. Nobody is arguing with you. What you're saying is just
not arguing.
Commissioners, it is almost 10 o'clock. So I feel like we should maybe move on to agenda item 6C.
Yes.
Please.
Yep.
Okay. Does anyone have anything to say on the Juneteenth celebrations?
I'm just really happy that finally it is a federal holiday. So at least I've always been part of the celebrations that happen in our county and our city, but I was very, very happy and was part of pushing our organization to, even if it happened real quick, that we had that holiday, and we are going to make it among the holidays that we get to get off from work. And it's way past time that it should have been made a national holiday. That's although also, even as it's sad for me. It's a sad holiday.
Mm-hmm.
I was happy to see us have it, but as well, the disappointing part to me is I had so many people, like I put this on my Snapchat story of like me at the event, and I had so many Black people hit me up and say, what is that? Where are you at? And that immediately for me is like, so it's not the city employees that are in charge of the communications and getting down on, because they do the job that they're told to do, but more so on the people planning what they're supposed to do. I've said this so many times, but the social media outreach and the general media outreach of the city needs to drastically improve, because that should not be happening, where people aren't knowing that a Juneteenth celebration is going on and they're asking me at 8:15 on that day when it ends at 8:30 and they don't even know what it is. But not even that, just like it became a national holiday just a few days prior, and then all of a sudden all this stuff on my calendar for work is just getting canceled in terms of meetings on Friday. And it's like, oh, so all white people just get a day off now. So are any of you like taking time to like read about like what this was, why this is, any of that? Or is it just like another day for you to just do whatever? So it's nice that it's a federal holiday, but I'd like to see more in terms of what we put into actually, celebrating it, like more education opportunities, more actual outreach, and not just, all right, everyone has a day off, do whatever, if that makes sense. Oh, go ahead.
So I'd like to push back on that just a little bit, because one, I don't think it matters that white people got the day off. It's a federal holiday, so everyone gets the day off. If you're who your employer follows the federal holiday calendar. But I think if you make that argument, then a lot of the people who take the Memorial Day off or Veterans Day off never bother to learn about veterans or do anything for veterans or remember their sacrifice. So I don't think we're in any position to shame people who did anything for Juneteenth and who didn't bother to look up what the holiday was about. I also think that, the city can only do so much. And so if people are signed up for the digest or the newsletters, they'll get that. If they're following the social media, they may see it, but the city's not going to send every Black person in Iowa City a special invitation to show up to a Juneteenth event. You actually have to put in some effort.
I think it's like was being misunderstood what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying that to shame people on it. I'm saying more so of like, it's not hard to like tell people like, hey, this is why Juneteenth is a thing, and to at least give them the opportunities of like events to go to learn more about it, instead of just, hey, you have a day off and leave it at that. But also that's again of like why there is a responsibility, because again, it's a federal holiday, so it's a government mandated thing. So also the responsibility of the government to say, this is why this is occurring. We have these things going on for this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the social media presence is severely lacking. Like, you rarely see them post, even if you do follow them. It's very, very easy to send out a tweet with literally just the flyer of what it is, so people can retweet it as well, or people can reshare it on their Facebook, instead of it just being that one Facebook group. Like, they already have the social media accounts. It's just, yeah, the effort put into the outreach is just very, very low in terms of what it could really be. Is just how I feel.
Yeah, I work with veterans, and you know, when you see how little people know about veterans and Veterans Day or Memorial Day, it's no surprise that people would be ignorant about a federal holiday that just became a federal holiday. I think we deserve to be a little bit more understanding of blind spots and ignorance. And move to change it. But I think we should take a more positive approach to outreach, like not even outreach, but like getting the word out about what Juneteenth is about. Because even the term Juneteenth celebration, you know, it is a very bittersweet holiday. It is very much like, even though these people were free, their oppressors did not let them know of their freedom. And it's, when you really think about it, it's just very sad. But I yield.
That is what I mean, though, of like continuing in the future.
Put something. So with this talk about, so Juneteenth has already happened. I think it's important, if we're going to continue to like discuss this, I think maybe like what we should work on is what can we do to make the next Juneteenth a more educational and a more exciting and equitable experience for those around us. I think that we should look, I know that like, you know, being a part of the TRC is looking into the history and looking to the past, but I think this is one of those things that we should hone in on as far as Juneteenth, because, you know, like the IFR and People's Truth and Reckoning, they had an incredible Juneteenth event. And I think that if education and letting people know what this is about is what our goal is, I really think that we should get to start planning, you know, the next year's activities. And I know that sounds like it's kind of weird and far from now, but the city does have things planned out way further than that for advance. And I would be open to having
that is what I mean, though. If they can do that with other events, why not this one, you know?
Yeah. So I'm saying then we should work on making next year's event, you know, in a more, you know, public space where more center part of Iowa City, or, you know, taking an entire thing to I'm saying that we should work on making ideas so that we can make sure that next year's Juneteenth is something that is celebrated, and all of, you know, just we educate those around us. I think that is, you know, the point that I'm trying to make. And I'll yield to Commissioner Dillard.
So I real quick just want to also push back a little bit, because I do know several of the people that were part of the planning committee, and instead of it feels like complaining, we should be celebrating the huge accomplishment that happened this year. We did a lot of great things, especially since the planning committee are and were people of color, Black women that helped put it together. So I'm having a little trouble. Commissioner Ollie says we should be focusing on more of a positive note. So that's all I want to say.
I agree with all of you. I just think we're talking past each other. And like I did say that I put it more on the city for not giving that incentive to really make it public with the control of the accounts. And I'm not putting it on the organizers that are the city employees, rather the people that run the city themselves. They have more of a responsibility to give more to allow it to happen. You know, it's like, I'm happy it all happened. I'm just saying that I'd like to see the people higher up making the decisions truly prioritize it in the way all these other things are. Like when it comes to the downtown Iowa City block party that they're gonna have next month, I saw that on KCRG. Like, why didn't I see this same thing, you know?
What's
But yeah, I'm happy it all occurred. I'm just at least wanting to point those things out so that going forward into the future, we can keep some of those pitfalls that happened in mind, so we know exactly, or at least some of the ideas to push for in the future, or at least to kind of focus on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that everything that you're saying makes sense. I think we're all talking in just like circular form right now. So I think that it would be best probably just to move on to the next one. I think that we're all in the same agreement and sentiment about Juneteenth and stuff. I really just don't think that us talking about this any longer is going to make for anything productive. So I really would hope that we could move on to agenda item number 7, which is commission announcements.
Yeah, but before we move on there, I don't want that point lost, the one that the chair is talking about at some point having something concrete on what
and that point has not been lost, because I think a few of us have repeated that sentiment.
I didn't finish, Commissioner Ali. That what exactly do we want the city to do?
Put the same amount of effort into promoting this as they do to promote other things, such as put news spots on the cable news like they did just now for a downtown block party. Actually post about it repeatedly. Talk to reporters to write articles about it incessantly all the time. And then also for them to talk about it in these like private meetings and things that they go to with all their friends and stuff. Like it's that simple. They don't do it, and it's clear to see.
And yes, you have captured a very important point, which is very integral to this commission. I remember even with the listening posts, I remember saying publicly and telling the council, don't just say the listening posts were the people who are mostly impacted are people of color, and yet you are having an event, and I don't say that they didn't show up. What effort did you make to make sure that they're there? So it happens again and again. So not to belabor the point that has been said, but it captures a pattern of when it's something about certain groups, people of color, the same effort is not put in. I yield.
I just want to apologize about keeping that going. It's just more for me. I just want to get that off. And then from here, whatever we do going forward, we can at least keep some of that in mind. But again, I am very proud of everyone that did put everything they had into making this event a success. All the free food that was given out, the 3-on-3 basketball tournaments, and all of that. That was all amazing to see. I just think it could be bigger.
Can I see some? Oh, sorry, there was a hand up. Daphne.
Commissioner Daniel, yeah, and then Sakawas, you can speak after Commissioner Daniel.
So I'd like us to start thinking about considering the budget committee as also, or subcommittee as also like a planning subcommittee, since we're already kind of looking at the TRC's future as far as budgeting. And this could be one of the things that we look more into. You know, what the Juneteenth celebrations were great. How can we help make it how can we help make them better? I yield.
I just wanted to say that when I heard the chair speak about the criticism of not advertising the event as much, that I heard a criticism about a criticism of like institutionalized racism and systematic discrimination, which is exactly why this commission is set up. And that the city itself should be putting just as much work and effort and time and money into these types of celebrations as they are into the block party. I didn't hear a criticism of the wonderful people that organized the event. And I want to say the same thing, because when it comes to Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day, there's still a celebration of Columbus Day. They still haven't done away with Columbus Day. So like, what's the point of Indigenous Peoples Day? It's just a tokenizing event. And so I relate to what's been discussed here in terms of that as well. So thank you so much for letting me speak.
We do now have commission announcements if no one has anything else. Only announcement I have is just, once again, diversity market this Saturday, next 2 Saturdays after that. But I'm gonna make sure I just stop talking at this point. I've been saying a lot this meeting.
Yeah, me too. The only announcement that I will have is the diversity market is for the next 2 weekends, not in August. We'll talk about August when we get to July. So that's the only thing I got to say.
Commissioner Daniel.
I would like to encourage everyone to do some self-care tomorrow and this weekend, and just enjoy the summer. It's going to be short, so it goes by so quickly. Get outside, get reconnected to nature. I yield.
Can somebody please help me with the structure of this with commissioner announcements? I know I'm not supposed to talk to anybody. Am I allowed to talk about events that I'm involved with that I can announce?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
The only thing that we can respond for as commissioners is to ask for like if the time or the date we can't.
Oh, like clarifying
directly
questions.
respond.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
I would like to announce the annual event to abolish monuments to white supremacy at the Capitol building, which will be happening on July 4th. And you can go to the Facebook page at Great Plains Action Society and you'll see the event there. This year, we are also going to be working on bringing light to the recent bill that was passed to ban critical race theory in Iowa funded institutions. Which means like our kids will not get critical race theory. And this is a coalition event. Many organizations across the state and even into Eastern Nebraska have joined on. And I would like to encourage people to attend and support because this has a lot to do with the very reason why the TRC exists. So, and I'm not talking to the TRC, I'm talking to the audience that's watching. Thank you very much.
Time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Time.
Oh, 1, 2, 3. On July 4th at the Iowa Capitol Building at the West Terrace, and the Facebook event page can be found through Great Plains Action Society.
Mhm.
I just wanted to add very quickly that the reason I mentioned about the self-care is because June is National Pollinator Month, and gardening is one way I do self-care, so that's why I brought it up. But yes, please remember your like the pollinators that help us get our food. Thank you. I yield.
I attended the diversity market, and I'll continue attending them. The education subcommittee started meeting, and the team that is going to collect the racial discrimination experiences in the team that's leading with the African communities started meeting. I yield.
And before, I don't know if there's any other commissioner announcements. I just wanted to make sure there's no updates on the RFP before I made a motion.
There's no update.
Do you have any announcements, Steph?
I did want to mention just two brief things. If somebody wants an item under the community discussion on the agenda, at the last meeting, if you just email the chair, vice chair, and just CC me so that I'm in the loop, that, you know, it would ultimately, I guess, be up to the chair and vice chair, but it's certainly something, if anybody has something specifically they want to talk about under that item or on the agenda period. And then I just wanted to mention on the budget, some of the things, you know, if you look back at the resolution, it says things not covered by other city services programs, or not, it says beyond what existing city staff programs and services can provide. So it appears that some of those items could be items that city staff services or programs could provide. I've offered my assistance of knowledge. So I mean, if there's ever a question, it doesn't shoot to call me or shoot me an email, because you may be allocating funding to something that the city has a program, service, or staff that could do. And you can put that funding towards something that the city couldn't provide. So I'm just offering, you know, my knowledge as city staff to make sure you're not doing light items for things that could be allocated to trainings or to other things that you're wanting to do as a part of your mission. So I just wanted to throw that out there, but that's it.
I definitely want to make sure that I say this really quick before we adjourn. There are a number of protesters from last year's protest who have been getting arrested lately, and just like the Na situation at the beginning of this spring, they would like our support in Johnson County Court. I know that the next protesters court date happens to be the next Thursday that we meet, I believe, July 8th. It's at 1:30
Dan
p.m.
Cobble.
There's Mate Mohammed and another protester whose name I don't have. But I think that it's important that we support people's right to their freedom of speech. And I think that everything that this legislation and this local government and state government has done as far as protesting safety, protester safety, has just been all bumbo jumbo. So if you want any more info about that, just let me know. But I think that it's important that we support those who are helping lift those marginalized voices up. And with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Rivera, so
second.
moved. Oh, go ahead.
I
All right.
second the motion. Gadua.
Okay.
Okay.
And,
Been
oh, Stephanie,
properly-
sorry.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, I would say meeting is adjourned 10:14.